All right, everybody, welcome to the Whispers in the Fog podcast, which is the offshoot of the Killer Main podcast. Today, we are talking about the topic of what belongs in DBD, what fits in Dead by Daylight. Because with the most recent killer release of Tokyo Ghoul, let's just say the conversation has definitely been brought back. Today, we have my returning guest. They would like to introduce themselves.
Hello. My name's Unladen Crow. I'm an unknown main, and I also occasionally make DBD commentary videos. And I made a video about this a couple months ago that got some people very heated. Other people, it was a bit controversial, but I honestly was not expecting it to become true so soon with the whole anime and DBD thing.
When did
I thought we were still a year out, but here we are.
Do you know when that video released? Do you know when you made it?
It was either 6 or 9 months ago. I'm pretty sure. Hold on, I can just scroll and see it really quickly. It was published on July 11th.
Okay,
so about 9 months, maybe.
So
8.
I know you know leakers, and I'm friends with leakers. Or people who have inside knowledge. I've known about this since November.
Really, that long ago?
Yeah. Yeah, I have had to keep it, quote, a secret. The only thing I've been telling anybody is that people are going to hate it. That's all I've been saying.
Yeah, that's what Makote said as well. Everybody's going to hate this next chapter.
And
they've been saying for a long time.
And he was half right. Like,
there are some people, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, we were talking about it a minute ago, but the response has been, I don't even want to say mixed. For the most part, people still don't mind that it's Tokyo Ghoul or anime or whatever their actual fault with it is. But it definitely, again, the small minority group that does hate it have definitely, like, overshadowed somehow the majority of people who enjoy Tokyo Ghoul and the fact that DBD is branching out of what it can actually do as far as licensing goes.
Yeah, I mean, once again, the Tokyo Ghoul fans, they've shown up in numbers, Like, it's been making quite a buzz on social media. It's been like a day, which really kind of is disappointing that they didn't do any teasers for it, because I think if they did any teasers, I think it could have done even better, just a little bit, even just a day before, But I feel like they didn't do any teasers, and honestly, if I had to guess, it'd be because this chapter got leaked to hell like a couple months ago.
I think it was also, and I know people bring this up a lot, I think it's also because their marketing department is still kind of in shambles a bit after the layoffs.
Maybe, yeah, but didn't Houndmaster have one?
She had a trailer, but it came out the day of her release.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like, and the other thing, and I criticize them for this. So they did post it on YouTube, by the way. It's on their YouTube channel. It's a short.
The Houndmaster one?
No, the Tokyo Ghoul.
Oh, really? It's a short.
It's a short. Now, don't get me wrong. As someone who does the YouTube thing, I understand. Make shorts. It helps. However, here's the problem with shorts. People like me, who either use the desktop version of YouTube, or more likely, I actually use my TV on my Switch, which is, at this point is basically just a YouTube box. Metroid Prime 4 still hasn't come out. It's a YouTube box. We don't really see shorts. We can, but it doesn't show up in my sub feed, and it shows up in my recommended feed, but it's all the way at the bottom in its own little tab. So, like, I didn't even know the trailer for it dropped until someone told me, and I went looking for it.
That is interesting. I don't know why they wouldn't also put, like, a landscape landscape form up. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's
kind of a weird.
It's so strange. The same on Twitter. Like they did the one image show off, said who he was, and that was it. that was really it. Which it's weird because, like, I get it, they're a big company and it's a big license. It's, at the end of the day, that is all you, quote, need. But it kind of, I don't know, compared to, like, the Castlevania chapter, it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, because there was still a lot of hype around Castlevania, even though that one, you want to talk about leaked to hell. That was part of the big leak where we knew the entire year. Was
that one even leaked? I feel like the devs said it, didn't they?
Yeah, it was leaked. There was a dude. I don't remember exactly where. There was some guy. He leaked all the way from, I think it was Chucky up to D&D, or not D&D, Castlevania. I
Mm.
think something crazy like that. It was wild. It was
It,
practically a whole year that we knew. We didn't know that this guy was trustworthy at first. I'm trying to remember, but it was something like that, and it was just
yeah, it's always weird how that works. Because I mean, we had like, was it the year Night came out? We had like that entire year leaked too. It was like Night.
uh
It was Dredge, Night, and I think whoever was in between them, we had leaked.
Yeah, well, I think Singularity only got, or not Singularity, Skull Merchant only got leaked like a week before, and
Do
we didn't even see her until like the night before, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Chat saying D&D and Castlevania got leaked around the time of Chucky's PTB.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, last November. Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
but
and I know Unknown did too, but it was like a really vague leak of like a killer that can kind of change outfits like Legion or
mhm.
something like that.
And it brings into question with the idea of like, and again, I don't have a marketing degree, so I couldn't answer it completely, but
Hmm.
it brings into question. It's like, if it's been leaked, is it even worth hyping up? And I still think it's worth it.
It
like
can be.
I don't know. Like I feel like as a company, you kind of just have to ignore that something got leaked, unless like it's like a detrimental thing, right?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like if someone leaked out like, oh, this I don't even know, because like even with like Pinhead leaving, like that was leaked like what, 2 weeks before.
Hmm.
So like,
Yeah, that was because they found the Steam sale, though, wasn't it? They
yeah,
found a Steam sale, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I wonder what this means."
it's another one of those things too. It's like I don't know, because leaking used to happen back in the day, but not as much as it does now for like every video game. And
Hmm.
it mostly comes down to just because it's a few things, but the big thing is leakers have just gotten smarter.
Hmm.
uh,
And
it
there's also more of a desire to.
Yeah,
I can't say a whole lot about this, but I've actually been like looking into that, why leakers leak things, and it's a very interesting topic.
I mean,
Uh,
I assume part of it comes down to just like getting your name out there as like the guy who knows things.
to a degree, yeah, for some of them, but there's also, it's not as one dimensional as that. I don't want to say a whole lot about this, but it is there's a whole lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's just someone, I guess in DBD's case, it's someone who is a fan of the IP that's coming,
Mm-hmm.
and they just can't help themselves. They have to talk about it.
Ah,
And
fair enough.
sometimes it's someone who is, just trying to get their name out or make a little bit of social media money or whatever. And other times it's some other kind of they might have some other reason to do it.
Mm.
It's very interesting. I know I can't say a whole lot right now. There's good reason why I'm not, but it is a very interesting topic, and there's a whole lot of depth to it.
Well, moving on from the whole leak situation,
Hmm.
though, the chapter as a whole, from its response, I actually kind of want to get away from Tokyo Ghoul and bring up another chapter that was another couple chapters that were kind of hit with this idea of it doesn't fit in DBD. And the
Okay.
big one I want to bring up is one that people kind of stopped talking about because it got announced officially, and that's FNAF. Um, for years, I have been in this community since Nemesis release, so I think it's
Hmm.
mid or late 2020. So about 4 years, or 5 years now. Jeez, God, time flies. But the thing with like I remember everyone like speculating about FNAF, and the biggest thing that everyone would say was FNAF doesn't fit DBD.
Hmm. I've heard a
And
lot of that. Yep.
at that point, that when people started saying that, when I first joined the community and saw a bunch of people saying that, my immediate response was, why? I genuinely don't understand the reasoning as to why FNAF of all things doesn't fit Dead by Daylight. And the only response I could ever get was that it was because it was a children's franchise.
Yes, that was very common, but I think a lot of that, more than anything, was just that the player base at the time was, older. A lot of people like to act like DBD is some old, super mature, like almost blue collar community, and it wasn't. But there was a time where it was. Most people who were playing this game were those like 30-year-old people who worked with their hands. They were handyman kind of people, and they grew up like as a teenager. They watched all these horror movies, and then through the grapevine or somehow they heard about, hey, there's this game where you can play as Michael Myers, and that's how they got into it. And I know that because I was in the community at the time. I played on Xbox at the time and a little bit on PC, but most of the time when you joined a voice chat, it was those people. And they probably had no idea who a Freddy Fazbear was. So, they go and they hear what do you call it? They hear, oh guys, we should add Five Nights at Freddy's to DBD. Or hey guys, it might be Five Nights at Freddy's that's coming to DBD. They're like, the hell's a Freddy? And so they Google Five Nights at Freddy's, and what's the first thing they come up? They see a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic. And they're like, huh? Even if they look into it a bit, since it's so different than the kinds of horror that they're used to, they don't really, I don't want to say they don't understand it, but they're just not kind of, they haven't seen the whole picture of it, and therefore they feel like it doesn't fit, which is honestly probably a lot of what's happening with Tokyo Ghoul. Not that there's really a whole lot of people saying that about Tokyo Ghoul anymore. I feel like a lot of the people who are saying it doesn't fit don't really know anything about the franchise. Well, I don't either, to be fair.
Yeah, and I'm not like you asked me earlier if I was like big into anime. I used to watch anime a lot in my younger days. By younger, I mean like my mid-20s. But but I used to watch anime a lot, but like Tokyo Ghoul was one that I kind of skipped and was never really into. I've seen clips from the anime, and I've heard things from the manga, but I'm not like the biggest fan. But I think that also leads into the other thing with like, because I mentioned this to chat earlier, that like Michael Myers I think is a good example. Everyone knows Michael Myers, right? Like I talked about it earlier. Like my 10-year-old sister knows Michael Myers. She's never seen a Halloween movie. And that leads into question of like the idea of like, should it only be icons that are brought into Dead by Daylight? And that leads into the idea of, is that sustainable? Is that even possible? Because
short answer, no.
Well, because I mentioned this with Bran the Mr. Headache when we were talking about Xenomorph and Chucky. It's like, how many more do they have left? Like of these conventional slasher characters from like the 80s.
Jason, Candyman, and there's one more, Predator.
And
those are the big three that's left.
And Predator is one I've even argued, like, I don't even think, and let me phrase this in the best way I can. I don't think Predator fits DBD. However, I do think he belongs in it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, he's one of those characters where lore-wise it might not make a whole lot of sense for him to be there, because Predator's whole thing, from my understanding, is he likes to search out worthy foes, right? That's his whole thing. He's not some slasher killing innocent people. He wants a challenge. He wants a fight. And people who don't present that aren't at risk.
Yeah. Pretty
and
much.
Honestly, okay. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say pretty much, but my thing with it is that, and I know some people are going to hate me for this, the Predator movie isn't a horror movie. It's a reverse horror movie. It's kind of the whole point. But then again, that also leads into the question of like, me making that argument is also similar to the arguments people make about like Tokyo Ghoul and FNAF. Even though the thing with those though, for Tokyo Ghoul in particular, is people are like, oh, it's not really horror. It's like, but it is horror. Horror is
from
like
everything that I've heard. It is.
Horror is such a broad. It's the same thing with the D&D chapter that happened. People are like, oh, this isn't horror. It's D&D. It's like fantasy. Yeah, it's fantasy horror. Horror comes in many shapes and forms, whether it's psychological, whether it's body horror, whether it's like the whole idea of slashers or real life incidents, like with Doctor and Clown to a degree. Like it comes from so many different, even aesthetics, right? Because like, I mean, a jack-o'-lantern is technically horror, right? It's associated with the holiday of Halloween.
Right.
It's considered horror. I mean, we even saw this, and it's also funny because like I bring this up too with like the Christmas event. So many people are mad that like the cute snowmen are gone. And that always makes me laugh because it's like, I thought you guys wanted this game to be scary again.
I mean, to be fair, the snowmen were very cute.
My opinion on that is just have both. I don't know why we can't have both. Just make everybody happy. Just have the creepy ones with the tin can hats and the cute ones from years past. But
I see no problem with that personally.
But like this is even, and the survivor ones aren't as bad as the killer ones either. But like, I mean, Lara Croft was a huge one that people like said didn't fit Dead by Daylight at all. I remember that was probably when like the tipping point for when I saw the conversation switching to Dead by Daylight. And I'm using their words, not mine. Dead by Daylight Fortnite becoming Fortnite. Like, I think Lara Croft was the tipping point for a lot of people on that aspect, which is weird.
And it's weird that it was Lara Croft and not Rainbow Six Siege. That's right. We're going on this rant again. Everybody strap in. Dear Lord, what were they thinking? You see, I've been thinking about this. I've been reflecting on this a lot. Why do I hate this chapter so much? Especially because it's one of the few licenses that I actually like knew about before it came to DBD. And let me tell you why. I think it is a weird case of they could have made it work if they tried harder, but for whatever reason, they didn't. Now, I'm willing to, pin this on Ubisoft. I think Ubisoft wanted to try and, like, get more popular characters in, which is what I would say if they didn't include Wamai. Like, why Wamai? Every single time I try and come up with an excuse for this chapter, there's something else. Not a chapter, sorry, a collection. Like, okay, well, Rainbow Six Siege isn't a horror franchise, so they didn't have anything to work with. That's a lie, because Outbreak existed, but Outbreak was a limited time mode. Guess what isn't? Extraction. Yeah, Extraction is about as horror as, like, popping a pimple, but still, like, it's still there. It's still from something that is, like, that was incredibly horror. I won't go on the whole Outbreak rant again, but that one was, like, inarguably horror-based,
Yeah.
And Extraction, even if it's not the scariest game, or even the best game, at least it still kind of carried over a little bit of it, enough to where it wouldn't be a weird pick. But let's say that was a different license, right? They still had options that they could bring in. They could bring in somebody like Capitao or Jackal, who would fit more than the characters that they brought in, because those people were police officers, and they dealt with horrors of things like gang violence and I think it was the mafia or something like that for Jackal. I don't remember. It's been a long time.
I don't know Jackal's lore. No.
If they really want to go crazy with it, bring in Vigil. Dude lost his entire family and nearly died himself trying to escape North Korea. Yes. Maybe not the traditional sense of horror, but definitely kind of that bad aspect of history that they like to dive into sometimes with characters like Oni and Slinger, right? That would make a lot more sense. But no, we got Tubarão and Wamai and Blitz. And, Blitz makes sense. Blitz makes kind of sense. He's, a very iconic character. I can get that. And Tubarão, they wanted to put the new guy in their crossover, which is fine, except for the new guy wasn't even in the game when he came out, because Ubisoft had to delay the chapter. So Tubarão, all right, I'm running in circles here, but like,
well, I mean, bring up Rainbow Six Siege, I think is actually a good segue into the whole Fortnite-ification thing. I said it right, the Fortnite-ification thing, because this is the criticism that gets laid on every game nowadays. And I think and okay, is it a little bad in some games? Yes, it is. I will 100% agree that some games are doing collabs a bit too much. However, I hate to tell people this, but with the way the market is, and if you want to expand your game's audience, which I'm not going to rant about capitalism today, because we will be here for hours. However, the general rule of capitalism is you keep growing. If there's no growth, you're failing. It doesn't matter if you're stagnating. It doesn't matter if you're doing just fine. You need to keep growing. That's how capitalism works. Unfortunately, that does mean, or fortunately, depending on who you ask, in a video game sense, if your player base never grows because you can't expand it to other communities, your game will die. And we've been seeing this with a lot of games over the years. Fortnite was obviously the one to popularize the trend, but it's not the only one doing it. Again, Rainbow Six Siege has so many collabs at this point. Since there's a Nier Automata collab in Rainbow Six Siege.
Exactly, and there's Master Chief. Don't forget Master.
Oh yeah, Master Chief's in it. That's a sledge skin. I forgot, with a gravity hammer. And I'm not even gonna comment on whether or not I think that fits in that game, because that's a different discussion, because it is game based. But the other thing with Dead by Daylight that I think also makes me mad about this entire thing is that people act like this hasn't happened before. Every time it happens, people are like, "Oh, we can't have anime in Dead." But where were you guys during the Attack on Titan collab? Oh, that was fine.
Oh, those people weren't playing the game back then. I guarantee you those people weren't around when AOT happened. Didn't that happen around Pinhead? Or not Pinhead, Pyramid Head?
I think no. It was way after that. It was decently recent.
When was AOT collab DBD? June 19th. 23. Okay.
Yeah, it was last couple years. Yeah, it was decently recent. But
that's when it left though.
Oh, that's when
but still, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was in the game for a month. And that brings in a whole...
Longer than that, according to the dreaded Google AI overview I cannot turn off. July 19th, 2020 to June 19th, 23. Interesting.
According to my Google overview, is 136 killers in Dead by Daylight.
Exactly.
I think it's confusing Dead by Daylight with League of Legends sometimes. It's and that's not even right for League, so maybe I'm wrong. But that's another one. A lot of people bring up League of Legends for this too, because League of Legends really hasn't collabed in their game. I think that's the thing people forget. And there's a reason League doesn't collab in their game most of the time. I think there have been exceptions. Because League is the big one. They're the one people want to collab with, not the other way around. Fatal 6 and DBD win, please. I want this so bad. You guys have no fucking... Just make it an unknown skin. Just make it an unknown skin. Speaking of, by the way, I'm just saying, I've wanted the darkness in this game for 2 years now, and the Tokyo Ghoul chapter is probably the closest I'm ever getting to it. Because it's literally the power I would want for Jackie. Tentacles that move you around the map. Boom, you did it. But the whole because it was Laura, even Nicolas Cage. I remember Nicolas Cage got, quote, the pass because it was funny.
Well, not only that, Nick Cage, he's been in a lot of horror movies. Are they good horror movies? Hell no. But they're horror movies, inarguably.
You don't Wally's Wonderland? Come on. Or Willy's Wonderland? Come on. He doesn't even talk in that movie. That's how good he is.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny, but I will go out on this. He is one of the better fitting licenses. It just works, I
think it's one of those ones where it's so over the line in the best way.
Yeah, it completely wraps back around to being perfect.
Yeah. It's the same thing with and I know people are tired of seeing him, and sentiment has changed on this person, this actor over the past year. But same thing with people who said Jack Black should be in the game. I've heard a lot of, maybe not a lot.
Really? I've never heard that.
I've heard some people want Jack Black in the game. And, it's one of those things where it's when I say it out loud and you hear it and it sounds kind of dumb, but then you think about it for a little bit and you're like, you know what?
Yeah, I will definitely have to think about that more because I am in the what are they cooking moment right now.
But Nick Cage is also a weird one too because it's literally Nick Cage. It's not a
hmm
character he plays. It's literally him.
It's
Um,
literally him, yeah.
but and then like the Alan Wake chapter was this was probably the one where I started like raising an eyebrow, like, what the fuck are you people even talking about? Like, there were so many. Like, okay, the Lara Croft one, like, I don't agree with people saying she doesn't belong in the game.
hmm
I don't. However, I understood the arguments.
Right.
If that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The Alan Wake stuff, though, I did not understand the arguments in the slightest because
No, that
because most of the arguments were, oh, it's not a horror game. The fuck do you mean? It's literally a psychological horror game.
once again, I think we're coming back to the point of people just don't like licenses that they're not familiar with, which is understandable. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's okay to not be hyped for a collab you know nothing about,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but saying it doesn't fit in DBD just because you don't know anything about it is, you know,
Well, and we both admitted like I've never really been into Tokyo Ghoul. I know of Tokyo Ghoul, but like I've never like been a
hmm
fan of it or like even partaken in any of the media that much. Um, but like I'm still excited for the chapter, not just because of like the power or anything. It's just again the thing with everyone knows this expression. Everyone knows this expression, even though it's not true. By the way, um, you put a frog in a pot of water and you slowly
hmm
turn the heat up and eventually it'll boil itself alive. Not true, by the way. They've done testing on this. The frog will jump out of the pot. They're not stupid. Anyways, but it comes down to like conditioning and all of that stuff, right? And it's like for some reason people are so scared of like quote it's a slippery slope argument too. It's like, well,
hmm
if this is allowed, where do we draw the line? And the short answer is we don't draw the line unless like it's something blatantly, because the thing is like if it was something blatant that didn't fit in this game, like I don't know, Teletubbies, like people keep suggesting on the polls, like,
yes, Teletubbies.
well, and I know people are, at least I hope people are joking with that one. But like, okay, that's one where I'm like, okay, yeah, for sure, that doesn't belong. Of course, it doesn't belong. But then there's other ones where it's like, okay, this is horror adjacent. I can see where people are coming from this. For the most part, like even like we joked about Master Chief in Rainbow Six Siege, right?
hmm
The Flood.
Right.
That is like Lovecraftian universe destroying horror.
hmm
That would fit in DBD.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But
And
the question,
that wouldn't happen though, because they can't include Master Chief as a survivor.
yeah,
It just can't happen. But you know who might make sense? What was his name?
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah, Johnson. I'd play Johnson. I think he'd fit. We
Johnson's.
don't know what happened to him. We don't know how he escaped the flood. Maybe
Yep,
this is how.
we do know.
Maybe he struck a deal with an eldritch god he read about on a panel somewhere.
Uh, Listen, I'm a Halo nerd and read all the books. I can actually tell you how he survived the flood.
Oh, is there actually? I
the
only played the games. I didn't know there was a canon explanation.
Yeah, so he was in. So you know how so Master Chief is a Spartan 2.
hmm
The Spartan 1s were a group of adult humans that were injected with the serums and augmentations. Johnson was part of that and was one of the few survivors of it. The program failed, and he because of this, his blood is like, it has like some plasma infused stuff to it, and basically it makes him not invisible, but like the flood don't like how he tastes pretty much. There's a Halo
Oh,
fan listening.
interesting.
There's a Halo fan listening to this who's like, that is not right. I am paraphrasing this, okay? It would take like 2 hours to fully explain it. Basically, he's immune to the flood because of an experiment he went through. That was part of the Spartan program. Um,
hmm
so yeah, technically Johnson's a Spartan, by the way.
I think I heard that somewhere,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I said, I just played the games, but this conversation I think kind of leads into a point of that of like where my opinion on what fits in DBD, and the answer of what fits in DBD is whatever behavior is willing to really make work in DBD.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a few licenses that are hard no's. Obviously, we don't need My Little Pony in DBD. That I'm not taking any constructive criticism. You can leave your hate comments, and Bennett can deal with it. Sorry, buddy. We don't need My Little Pony.
But Fluttershy, come on!
But like we just did with Halo, if they're willing to part from like a titular character, I think they can make a lot of licenses work. You know, like we did with the Flood, and like I was saying with 6 of going like Extraction or Vigil or something. You know, I think there's very few. I mean, look, let's talk about Teletubbies. Does Teletubbies themselves fit? No, but I could see an original chapter that's based off of like internet creepypasta, kind of like what they did with Unknown. You know, make it some kind of like I guess almost like a FNAF thing where it's like somebody, you know, used the suit somehow and like committed murders with it. You know, just knock off FNAF. They're already confirmed to go to the game. What are they gonna do? You know, that kind of thing.
I'm sorry. I just can't stop laughing that the phrase "Let's talk about Teletubbies" was in one of my Dead by Daylight podcasts. You know, someone in chat brought up a Jurassic Park. Like that's one that okay. I know the leaks have been out there. As someone again who is friends with leakers, this isn't me bullshitting anybody. I promise. I cannot confirm or deny that's actually happening. I legitimately have only seen one person mention it, and I do not know how trustworthy they are. That's all I'm going to say. But the question does get brought up with like Jurassic Park is another good example because also like I bring up Singularity for this sometimes because I've talked about Singularity's lore in the past, right? Because Singularity's lore is bad, but I am of the belief it's bad on purpose. Because I think what they were going for was like a sci-fi B-movie vibe. Right?
I could see that.
But that also leads into the question of like with a lot of because I don't like to say it's nostalgia talking for a lot of people, but guys, for real, go back and watch the original Nightmare on Elm Street and tell me it's a good movie. Watch it right now. I'm serious. I don't mean from a technical perspective. I don't mean from the time it was made in. Go watch it right now with fresh eyes and tell me with a straight face it's a, quote, good movie.
It's an enjoyable movie. I wouldn't say it's a good movie. As someone who watched it without like nostalgia for it, it's a fun time, you know, but it's not going to make Martin Scorsese cry.
Yeah,
you know?
It's the same thing I say about like the about Seed of Chucky. It's like I enjoy that movie for what it is, but it is a shit movie. It is so nonsensical in like the best way possible, but it's just it's like The Room, right? Like we all agree it's a terrible movie, but like we still like watching it, you know. But my point with that is. My point with that is it's like we talk about like these horror icons and like these like masterpieces, quote unquote, of movies that need to come to the game. Honestly, I think the only two like truly masterpiece movies that are horror movies, I'm gonna get so much shit for saying this, or maybe I won't. Who knows? The only true masterpiece horror movies, in my opinion, are Candyman and Hellraiser.
I can't comment because I've actually never watched either, but I'll take your word for it because I know a lot of people really like Candyman, if nothing else.
Candyman is... I can't get into it here or else my comments will go insane, but Candyman is... You have to watch it. I don't want to spoil or explain why it is.
It's already been spoiled. I watched the kill count.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
I got the plot synopsis. That's why I'm willing to believe you on it. It does seem really interesting. I haven't seen it properly for myself, so I won't comment on it too much.
Well, it's also like it's not to say the other movies are like bad. Like the original like Friday the 13th movie is not a, quote, terrible movie. I'm being hyperbolic, obviously. Like it's still watchable. It's not like a dumpster fire of a movie or anything. But like,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even want to say for a modern audience, but like in general, the movie's really not that good. It's very slow paced. It like the kills are there, but like you don't even really know what's going on till like 3/4 through the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how to explain it. It's just, and maybe this is just the film nerd in me coming out, but they're just, and that's the thing with horror. And this is also another thing because we talked earlier about like can they stick with like these 80s slasher movies?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, they're running out of them. Is really what's happening. It's not that they can't stick with them; it's that they're running out. And that brings into question, what about modern horror? The problem with modern horror, especially movies, is I can name in the past decade, I can name like 4 or 5 what I would consider classic horror movies, even though that doesn't make any sense in a 10-year span. But
Like potential to be a classic.
yeah,
Yeah.
like It Follows and
Mm-hmm.
Smile and things like that, right?
Really, Smile.
I would say
I
Smile.
heard mixed things about it.
I think Smile's actually pretty decent. It's better than what's the phone movie?
Oh, Black Phone.
No, 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 no. The one where like there's a demon in the phone.
Oh, I got no clue.
Oh my god! Like it's like an app you download on your phone and it like tells you when you're gonna die.
Oh, that I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or A Quiet
I-
Place. Someone brought up A Quiet Place. Quiet Place, I think, is probably one of the exception to this. But
Yes.
the thing is, in the last 10 years or so, a lot of horror has shifted into, it's shifted from like the slasher more so into the existential horror.
Mm-hmm.
Not even existential, but like, it's not existential. It's not psychological. It's more. I don't even know what the word would be. Would it be like philosophical horror?
I
Encroaching
guess you could call
horror?
it that. Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
Because it's hard to explain because it's followed. It Follows is like a very, it's an extremely slow burn movie. Nothing like things
Mm-hmm.
happen in it, obviously, but like same thing with like the original Friday the 13th. But the thing is, the killer in that movie is it's just a walking thing. It just
Yeah.
walks towards you and kills you. The idea is like you're cursed and like it just keeps coming for you.
Yeah, I
And
feel like It Follows would be hard to implement into the game for a couple reasons, mainly how you catch it.
mhm.
That update would make a lot of people happy, actually, now that I think about it. But I don't know if they want to go that direction with the game yet.
Yeah, and someone brought up Terrifier. That's a good one. The thing with Art the Clown and Terrifier isn't that I don't think it would work, because I do think it would, and that I don't think it's not a slasher, but it's the exception.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exception, and I think it's why Terrifier did as well as it did, because it went back to. It's one of those ideas of like regressionist, not regressionist, but like regressing back to a quote better time and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was part of the genre that people have been, it's like when Scream came out and every horror movie was trying to be like funny. Um and then
And now how everything's a mascot horror, yeah.
yeah, and then everything's a mascot. Like everything happens in trends, including horror. The thing with the other
Mm-hmm.
thing with horror, and the reason why I think a lot of people, we don't really see too many like new horror icons or anything, is a lot of horror relies on, and so I'm going to get so much shit for this. I know I am. I love the horror community. Horror kind of relies on low budgets. I know that might be a stretch to say, but like
I can see that.
almost every great horror movie in history had a low budget.
I mean, yeah, obvious examples are what Blair Witch and the original Saw. Like they
Mm-hmm.
had Blair Witch had what, $2,000, something like that, and
And
it's widely considered to be one of the best of all time. I can totally see that. Yeah.
yeah, or like, and like another one, and this is one that I think is also debated a bit, is like Carrie. Because I know people want a Stephen King chapter of some kind. And
Mm-hmm.
the obvious answer is Pennywise. That's the obvious one that everyone brings up. But there's a lot
Yeah.
of other ones he's done. I mean, there's The Shining, which I think would be fucking impossible to get the licensing for, if I'm honest with you. But there's The Shining. There's Carrie, I think, is my choice for it. But that's another one where people would be like, well, does that really fit? Because Carrie isn't a horror movie until like the last half.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's more I'm going to make up a term. It's more a catharsis horror movie, if that makes any sense. Like, have you seen Carrie before?
No.
Okay. So do you know the plot of Carrie?
Oh yeah, she gets bullied a lot, and she ends up dying, right? And she comes back with like psionic powers. I don't know
No,
what the word to
no.
call them.
She just has them.
Oh, she just gets them. Okay.
Yeah. She just has them. But that's the thing though. It's like that's why I call it a catharsis horror, because the villain of that movie is technically the main character.
Right.
But you sympathize with her because she's bullied the whole time, and you're like on her side for like the first 3/4 of the movie, and then she literally kills everyone. I use the word literally figuratively. I apologize. I had a comment say I use too many big words, so I'm going to use more big words. But again, like the thing is, going back a little bit to Dead by Daylight, that with like Alan Wake, I think is the one we started this conversation with. It's like Alan Wake it is horror. Like it's not like conventional horror, and even then, I would argue it pretty much is conventional horror. It's terrifying.
It's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, like the idea of like an entity that like an entity that is being controlled by your writing that is causing like your downfall. I haven't played Alan Wake 1 forever, so I'm probably gonna mess up the notes. And it's the company that makes Alan Wake is what's the word I want to look for? Not the most direct with their storytelling. So I could be misremembering. But the point is, like, it's still scary. Like I'm not scared of it, but it's scary. And I think that's the other problem with like this idea of like what horror is and what fits Dead by Daylight is like I think FNAF is a good example, right? It's for a lot of people, FNAF isn't scary at all. There's nothing scary about it. It's like, oh, it's just jump scares. Like, and the argument can be made: jump scares aren't scary; they're startling and whatever. And for a lot of people, it's not scary at all. A lot of people aren't affected by the Uncanny Valley. A lot of people aren't. I envy those people, by the way. I wish I wasn't affected by the Uncanny Valley. But it leads into a question of like, just because it's not quote like scary for you, does that completely negate the fact that it is in its essence scary? Right? Like if someone isn't squeamish, does that mean like blood isn't gruesome?
Interesting. I'm trying to think of how to word that. I guess I think, let me put it like this. I think just because something doesn't personally, rattle you, doesn't mean that it doesn't rattle someone. This kind of ties into the whole, accessibility argument that was popular a couple months ago in the DBD community, right? A lot of people were calling for, phobia filters of certain things, and other people were saying, no, that's ridiculous. You're playing a horror game to be scared. It kind of ties into that a little bit. I think kind of what you're kind of loosely
because
talking about.
I think the squeamish thing is a good example. It's like, Gears of War. Like, I'm not going to play Gears of War if I'm squeamish. Right. That is a game where you literally curb stop people's skulls in, right? Like, I'm not going to play it if I'm squeamish. However, if they were to add like a blood filter, I don't think it takes away from the game, because again, it only affects me playing it, not everybody. And two, it's like it brings into question again of like, okay, well, they're squeamish. Should we how far do we go to make it accessible to those kinds of people? And
because there is like go on.
I was in Dead by Daylight in a weird case, because while yes, it is classified as horror, it's more how do I
it's almost arcade horror.
Yes, I think that's how I would word it. Yeah. It's arcade horror. Like, it's not like, because people. Resident Evil 5 is a game where people have argued like it got rid of the scary part of Resident Evil. And part of that is because I think the developers knew if it was a co-op game, it's not going to be scary anyways. Like,
Right.
So what they did was they went away from scary and moved more into unnerving. Because those are two different sensations.
Right.
Right? Like, again, the Uncanny Valley, I think, is a good example of this with the FNAF franchise. I'm not scared of Freddy Fazbear. Right? Right? No cap. I know I'm 30 and saying that, but anyways, I am not scared of the Freddy Fazbear. Okay. Arf, 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 arf. Anyways,
what do you mean? He might come out of your closet at any given time. That's why you can't get up and use the bathroom. What do you mean, man? How are you not terrified of that?
However, I am man enough to admit, after I watch a few videos that have like his eyes and like his face, and like the Uncanny Valley sets in where like something doesn't look right and like I see it move but also not move, I do kind of look behind myself every now and again. I'm not gonna lie. Not because I think anything is gonna happen, but because it's unnerving, it's unsettling, right? And I think a lot of like the more like, I think like Dredge fits into this too. Like Dredge's appearance, in my opinion, is actually kind of cute. It's like a pug. No shade to pugs. Shout out to pugs out there for all my pug listeners. Pugs are like ugly cute, right? Like, I think we can all agree on that with their smushed in faces that we caused. God, fucking pugs. I feel bad for pugs. Anyways, they're like ugly cute. I think like Dredge kind of fits into that a little bit, where he's like kind of ugly cute. The unnerving and unsettling part about Dredge is the sound effects, the idea of what it is, the context behind it.
Right.
And you know, Houndmaster is another good example. Someone brought up Snug. I've talked endlessly about the design of Snug and how the developers managed to somehow make him cute and adorable, and like, not adorable, but like they managed to make him look friendly and intimidating.
Yeah, so they did a very good job with the design of that. If nothing else at all, they did a good job designing Snug. And honestly, kind of Houndmaster too. I know some people are less set on that, but I think they did a good job with her. You want to talk about design, or even honestly accessibility with her and playing as her? There's some problems, like she is probably the worst Yapatron in the game, at least until Ken got added, so much so that I know people who cannot play her because they have overstimulation issues or something like that, and playing as her is just too much. Between her constantly whistling, yelling, her panting whenever she's on trail, the other sound effects, the sound of the game, and Snug's like,
Well, I mean, I've even made this argument for like Chucky. Like, there should be a slider for voice lines. 100%. Either like, okay, behavior. If you don't want to like mute them, fine. But like, there could be an intensity slider. Some games have done this. Where there's like an intensity slider for voice lines, where like the voice lines still happen, they're just not as frequent. And
that would be good as well, because I mean, Ken.
Oh my god!
Oh boy!
I had to lower.
He's the newest.
I had to lower DBD's volume to 20% when I was doing it on PTP because it was getting on my nerves. I don't know about chat, but it was getting on my nerves.
Mute focus, tab out. That's what I had to do when I was waiting in queue. He is the biggest like sufferer of the Oni disorder we have had ever. Well,
whenever like I'm sitting in lobby like talking about something, I switch to Pick. She's the quietest in the game. She doesn't make any noise. Yeah, and there's a reason for that. It's because I main Chucky, and Chucky will go every 15 fucking seconds. I love Brad Dourif. I love Chucky. But man, it is hard to talk when I get interrupted by a laugh all the fucking time.
Yeah.
But again, like with the Dredge and like even Houndmaster to agree, it's like, to me that's still like horror, and it still fits in Dead by Daylight. It's just a different kind of horror. Even like twins to a degree, like that's body horror. If anything, twins is actually even really not that scary. Like from a lore perspective, they're really not that scary.
Because I'd agree with that. Yeah, they're more of just a victim of circumstance, really.
Yeah, the scary part about twins, and this leads into like a different kind of conversation, but the scary part about twins is the body horror aspect. The fact that there's a huge like they're conjoined. Well, they were conjoined, right? Am I misremembering that?
Formerly conjoined.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure I wasn't misremembering. But yeah, it's that idea, and that leads into a whole other thing of like, should like something like that be considered horror, and whether or not it like, again, like that leads into a bunch of other things. It's the same thing with like Clown's design, like the fact that like he's kind of supposed to be like disgusting a little bit, but that's a whole different can of worms I'm not nearly qualified enough to bring up. But even like Freddy, like being a burn victim, there's some other things about Freddy that are terrifying. But the fact that the fact that his skin is so deformed, or Hillbilly is another one of this that like leads into like the more body horror aspects of it. And again, like there are different kinds of horror and ways to unsettle people, right? Even like based on like I wanted to say normal, but even based on like very common phobias, like again, the fear of dogs, the fear of dolls, the fear of clowns, a phobia Dead by Daylight's never done and probably never can do, the fear of heights, which is the most I could be wrong. I think it's still the most common, isn't it?
I think it's awfully common if it's not the most common.
Yeah.
Most common
fear.
All right, Google. Let's see what we got.
What's that AI say?
We've got nhs.uk. No, that's not even like a... Okay, never mind. A lot of things are saying fear of public speaking. Okay, mentalhealth.com. I don't... Does that count? I mean, kind of, yeah. I could see that.
All right, the next survivor requires you to go into a voice chat with the killer.
I mean, people have been wanting proxy chat for so long. Might as well.
It's just a perk. Knowing behavior, they would make it a perk the more I think about it.
You guys want to talk to your team? It's a perk called Walkie Talkie, and you can talk to anyone else on the Survivor team who has it.
Also, believe it or not, to everyone listening, I have immense social anxiety. I know you wouldn't know it because I do these. Trust me, anyone who's played with me outside of stream or like doing these podcasts, I don't say a fucking word.
Yeah, I know. There was one time we played, what was it? We played Siege together. And my friend was like, I don't think Bennett liked me. I was like, what? Why? You guys seem to get along fine. He's like, he said like 3 words to me the entire night.
I don't talk off when I'm not doing stuff like this. And that's not to say like I don't like to talk. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. Like even at work, my entire job at work is talking. I work in customer service. That is my job. I'm a manager in customer service. I fucking I despise talking to people. Except for you, Crow. You're cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I hope people know what I mean by that. I assume it's common enough that people understand what I mean by that. But yeah, like the social anxiety thing, obviously. But okay. I mean this in the nicest way possible, though, as someone with that fear. What is the actual number one fear?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I closed out the Google tab. We were on a roll.
Like,
but I've seen arachnophobia a lot.
Like waking up with an alligator in your bed, I'm sure is up there, right?
Depends on how big the gator is. Small one, you might be okay.
Fair enough. I know in like New York, it's a very common fear of alligators coming out of your toilet.
Yeah, because that one... did that even happen, or was that just like
It was an urban legend. It's like the razor blade thing in Candy.
Oh, okay.
It like happened once, and then people were like, "Oh, it's happening all over the country." Sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis probably is a very actually. You know what? I don't think it's a common fear.
I don't think people fear it until they're experiencing that.
Yeah.
forget about it after a couple days.
I think it's one of those ones where it's like ignorance is bliss. A lot of people don't even know about sleep paralysis or have ever experienced it. As someone who has, it is fucking terrifying.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. There was one time I was in middle school and I woke up in the middle of the night and there was just this antler-headed deer just sticking out of the wall, like, what you doing there, buddy? How you sleeping? He just stared at me the entire night, and I was like, please go away.
please go away.
And he just didn't. We chilled all night. Chill is not the right word, but
I didn't even the one time. It's only happened to me twice, and I didn't even get like the demon right. I just had the sleep paralysis, and
you didn't even get the fun part.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. So the way I explain it to people, and again, it's hard to because it's a feeling of being dead and alive at the same time without being able to do anything. You are literally just stuck there thinking about doing something, moving, and you just can't. It's not that it hurts. It's not that like you're bound. You just physically can't move. It's so hard to describe unless you've experienced it.
Yeah, it's certainly. That's why I said the demon was the fun part. You're not focusing on that when there's a upside down antler-headed, demon just staring at you, telling you should have done better on your 6th grade math homework.
There's a Bo Burnham joke in one of his songs where he's got Sokka the puppet and comes out. He's like, Sokka, where you been? I've been in a frightening liminal void of a state of being similar to a state of sleep paralysis. It's like, you know what? That describes it. That describes it completely. It's like a sock puppet, right? Right? It's alive when it's on your hand and then you put it in the drawer. What is it now? It's Schrodinger's cat. All right. Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, let's go back to that. I was like, what are we even talking about?
I don't. Welcome to the podcast. But no, again, dogs. Arachnophobia is obviously one of the bigger ones. Fear of snakes is another one. I feel like people bring up when the conversation happens, but people don't bring it up enough. I feel because that's a very common fear is fear of snakes, and those fears are what's the word I'm looking for? They're evolutionary fears. Right. I've said this. I've mentioned this a lot. Like the reason a lot of people are scared of spiders is because back in the day when we were cavemen, we didn't know which spiders were poisonous, so we assumed they all were. Because we saw Bob go off and get bit by one and die, so we thought all spiders did that. So as a result, we avoided them, and that passed down through our amygdalas, and now boom, 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 bam, bop, here we are. Same with snakes. This is the reason people, this is theorized, this has not been confirmed. This is the reason they theorize a lot of people don't like vegetables, like when they're younger. It's an evolutionary trait because we didn't know which berries were poisonous.
Interesting. I could see that. That is definitely an interesting theory, if nothing else.
Yeah. Again, it has never been confirmed. Technically no psychological or evolutionary theories have been confirmed. They're theories, but there's pretty solid evidence on the arachnophobia and snake one. Even the clown one. The clown one, again, that goes into the uncanny valley. But it also goes into the unnervingness of this happy-go-lucky figure that could flip on a dime. I mean, what's the old expression? Never test a patient man.
It's something. The world shivers when a cold man, or when a calm man rages, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I always make the joke, especially on stream, when it's people don't really see me mad often, but when they do, everyone in my neighborhood knows I'm mad. It doesn't happen, but when it does, but it goes into and that's the other thing. Even with apart from the licensing stuff that fits in Dead by Daylight, it's what fears and stuff are left. We've done body horror, we've done uncanny, even Trapper. Trapper, in my mind, if I described Trapper to somebody and didn't tell him he was a horror character, would they really know he's a horror character?
I mean, he's got those giant meat hooks in his arm. I feel like that's a hint.
Right, but I'm not saying visually. What if I just describe Trapper?
Oh, like he places bear traps?
This character in this game has a machete for a weapon, and he places bear traps that trap people.
They'd probably think you were describing Jason, but yeah.
but
they could, depending on the game, yeah, they could definitely see that as not really horror based, you know?
I'm going to describe another character for you.
All right.
Yeah, she has a long range rifle, and she can place people in traps, and then she can shoot them from a really long range, causing a headshot.
Oh no, is this a League character?
It's League of Legends. It's Caitlyn.
I don't know nothing about League, but I just somehow I knew it was coming there.
Yeah, it's the League of Legends character. I mean, even like Rainbow Six Siege kind of has this with I haven't played the game since I played it a little bit, but is it Deimos? Deimos?
Oh yeah, Deimos. Yeah, Deimos is cool. I like Deimos.
Isn't Deimos pretty much like a horror villain?
He might as well be. Him and Caveira, yeah.
Oh yeah, and Caveira is different. Also, I have a Cat Vera plushie. I don't know if you know this.
You have a Cat Vera plushie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Cat Vera. It's Caveira as a cat.
Dude, I completely forgot about like all of those.
Siege Tales is the best. Yeah, it's Siege Tales. He listens to this, I'm sure. But you know, again, like even like Caveira like goes into like an idea of like torture horror, because what's the organization? Oh yeah, the BOPE. The BOPE. Guys, don't look into the BOPE. If you want to sleep, tonight, and this is nothing against anyone in the BOPE now, it's much like most militaries, they are pretty fine now, kind of. But
those black books that got classified somehow.
The black books in every country. Like, have you heard about some of the American torture methods?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, going with the basic, you know, you've got those MK Ultra stuff and the activities that accompanied that.
Yeah, and you know the MK Ultra thing. Like I've talked about this with Unknown. We mentioned this a bit with Unknown as far as like the backstory goes, where it's like it's kind of alluded that it might be an MK Ultra experiment.
It's definitely one of the things that they're trying to.
It's never said, which is fine. Yeah. But that leads into another thing with like torture horror, which I think is something that where like Trickster fits into a little bit, Trapper fits into, even Deathslinger to a degree.
Right, with the whole like spear, absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, again, like with the more of the going back more to the licensing away from the OGs, it's like Alan Wake inspired this video game. They've said it. They've said it multiple times. And the argument for him not being in the game is he's not horror enough. And I don't understand that argument. And I just don't. Like, what is horror enough? Like, because I think that's the problem with this entire argument of like people are like, this doesn't fit or this does fit, is the line moves every time depending on the character, because of an exception or nostalgia or a time period or something like that, or context, I guess. Because I think FNAF and Tokyo Ghoul are good examples of context mattering outside of the media. Let me rephrase that. Because I think the reason people don't want FNAF, and I'm going to talk some shit on the Tokyo Ghoul hate here in a second, but the reason people didn't want FNAF is because it's a quote, a children's franchise.
Right.
Which, I mean, that's an argument that I could debunk slightly, considering it's like a massive fan base, and I can promise you they're not all kids.
In a video I made a couple years ago on this, when it was first like when the first big Pinhead, you know, spring trap thing. You know, something I said back then is, okay, let's say you're right. Let's say every single FNAF fan, when it came out, was 10 years old.
Yeah.
By that point, if I remember right, they were like 17 in this hypothetical. If everyone was like 10 or 11 years old, they were 17, 18. And nowadays, they're in their 20s. And they still care about this franchise to some degree.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing with it is someone who is a fan of the franchise. Again, I watched it when it came out in 2014. How fucking old was I in 2014? I would have been 18 in 2012. So I was 20. I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
God, time flies. I was 19 or 20. Regardless, I was middle. I don't even know what middle age means anymore. I was 19 to 20. I don't know. Some people tell me 30 is middle age, and I'm like, is it? But my point with that is, yeah, that they grew up. And the other thing with like the FNAF thing is, and I know I've joked about who the killer might not be Springtrap, but let's not fucking kid ourselves.
If it's not, I have no idea what they're thinking.
Like I've said before, like, oh, it could be Baby, it could be Mimic, like, but it's not. It's fucking Springtrap. Okay, they could throw a curveball. They could. I doubt they will, but they could. Hear me out. First killer chapter to drop 2 killers at once.
Maybe, if there was ever a license to do that,
It's
I think it might be FNAF. Yeah, just because of how big the license is, not because there's 2 particularly great choices, but I think that out of just like the sheer size of it, I mean, let's face it, we've had a bunch of kind of empty chapters and releases lately. I don't know how else to explain it, but like this one, it's a killer. It's a solo killer, and we're getting an original survivor after this, and that's kind of like. We got a new map with this one, but it's a remake of not a remake, like an addition, a remix, if you will, of Eyrie of Crows.
Right.
And Houndmaster, we got a new killer and a new survivor, and I don't think we got a new map or anything like that, right?
Technically Lake Mine, but that actually wasn't with her. It was for the Christmas event.
Yeah. Okay. So we did get a new map ish.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of these are still kind of lacking. I don't know how else to explain it. They just don't feel like massive changes, and I feel like that's because they're really gearing up for whatever they're doing with FNAF, which it's 3 months away now.
Yeah, it should be June or July. The Mimic game releases on June. Someone could correct me. June 13th, I believe. June 13th, and my theory is the PTB will drop on that day.
Most likely, yeah.
I know
and it's very possible that we're going to get a whole lot out of. We already know for a fact it's killer, survivor, and map, right? That was confirmed on like the roadmap.
I know survivor was confirmed because we're getting another survivor in between then. We're getting another survivor, I believe. Yeah, it should be the mid chapter we get another survivor. But that's the other thing, because I've talked about this in the past with their content schedule. Apart from the licensed chapters, I don't mind them dropping a killer one patch and a survivor the next. The reason why I don't mind that, and maybe this is me being selfish as a content creator, but I mean, how we saw this happen between November and mid-January. There was nothing in the game, and I'm being hyperbolic with that statement, but there was nothing in the game for how long? The Rift lasted like an extra month, wasn't it?
Yep, and the community practically tore themselves apart for entertainment.
Yeah, because there was nothing new, which, I mean, that leads into a whole different thing of like, does a game need to constantly be adding content? But the thing is, like, because Rainbow Six Siege switched to this model too, right? They went 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 from 2, right? I don't know if they've gone back yet, have they?
No, they're still on the 1 release, but the thing to note about that is they didn't increase the frequency; they just decreased the amount, which I think was an iffy change. But
yeah, but like I personally, especially for the original chapters, I kind of prefer that we get killer and then survivor. And for the licensed chapters, I think a lot of it just has to do with the licensing of like. Getting the licensed survivor and making sure they're right, and that adds dev time and all of this. So yeah, my point with the FNAF thing though is it's like the fans of that franchise. There's like there's more, but there's 3 main subgroups of that franchise. There's the old fans, the newer fans known as the Steel Wool era, and then the lore fans. Like, there's people like me. I've never played a FNAF game.
I think that's most of the community. They've just watched Markiplier play it.
Yeah, I have never played a FNAF game. I own FNAF 1 and 2. I've never played them.
That was a big argument that a lot of people made way back when people were talking about DBD fan or like FNAF not being in DBD. They're saying FNAF fans have a culture of not even buying or interacting with the games that they're a fan of. That's not good for the game, and it could lead to a lot of wasted dev time. And that was like one of maybe two somewhat reasonable arguments against FNAF and DBD. And at the time, it was a pretty solid concern. But at this point, after 5 years of hyping, they show a single, and I mean like a single green pixel on Twitter one day. Everybody is losing their mind. You do not want to see what social media is going to look like the day after that. It's going to crash. It's going to be Steve and what do you call it? It's going to be Steve and Smash Bros all over again.
Like, I mean, it's one of those, like, if Dead by Daylight tweeted right now, no context, no nothing, I always come back.
Losing their minds. We're going to see 1,000 videos in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's insane. And then the Chucky fandom will be like, actually, we said it first. And then I still love the connections that Springtrap and Chucky have. It didn't hit me until someone started mentioning them, and I'm like, oh my fucking god. A relentless killer who is moved into another body, whose one of his catchphrases is "I always come back," and he pretty much never dies. Oh.
My theory about that is that Scott Cawthon didn't know anything about like horror when he started making it, because most of what he made was like Christian like family games before that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to bet you he looked up like for existing franchises that were similar with what he had once the FNAF started blowing up and Chucky and Child's Play came up. And so he based it off of that a bit. Because you're absolutely right. There is even as somebody who has never watched a Chucky movie, even I can see a lot of similarities between the two, with it being like I don't want to call it a perversion, but like I guess a distortion of like a child, like child toys and entertainment kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's just like it really is interesting the more you look into it how similar of characters they kind of are. Even like the even like the and this is more in the books for FNAF. Even like the idea of like William wanting to be like immortal. That's not really kind of Chucky's MO for the most part, but like it's like subtext that he just doesn't want to die. Like again, it's just it's so weird the similarities. But my thing with the FNAF thing is like there's these subsects of communities, and the thing is like if they go with Springtrap really isn't okay to any FNAF fans listening. You should know what I mean when I say this. Okay, I'm not gonna do my normal thing of explaining it completely. Springtrap is not really part of the new age of FNAF.
Yeah, isn't he just kind of like thrown in at the end of the newest game because they needed him to be?
In Security Breach, there's Burn Trap, and we still don't know if that's canon or not.
Okay.
So I know someone's going to say, well, actually, it is. No, nothing's been confirmed. It's all theories. Welcome to FNAF. Well, it'll be confirmed in 9 years, okay? And then you can come back here and tell me it was actually confirmed. So there's Burn Trap in Security Breach. There's Glitch Trap in Help Wanted. But because it's FNAF lore, so of course it's complicated. The way it's been basically like alluded to at this point is that it's not really Afton. It's the Mimic trying to be Afton. So again, like the newer FNAF franchise is leaning more into the Mimic and Baby. And I know some people are going to say Baby, but again, like Baby ? They have been pushing to bring her back for like the past 3 games.
Wasn't she destroyed in like 6?
Yeah, so was Springtrap. So
Oh,
was
you're right.
so
Yeah.
was the Blob. So was Innard. Okay, technically there was Innard. Whatever. And so was like the Puppet. But like the thing is like my point is like Springtrap himself, William Afton. He's still part of the franchise, right? He's still there. His fingerprints on everything, but he's
Right.
really not the main focus anymore. He's not the villain of the story. He's not. He's the catalyst for the story, if that makes any sense. But what I mean by that is a lot of the newer fans who like are fans of like the more Steel Wool stuff, they don't really care as much about Springtrap as the older fans do,
Right.
to my understanding. So like when you say you're bringing a bunch of kids, you're really not. You're bringing in the older fans from the original part of the franchise. That's why I think bringing the Mimic in would be bad, but bringing Springtrap in would be fine. Even though I think the Mimic is still definitely a possibility. But yeah, and that moves on to like Tokyo Ghoul, because the same argument was levied at Tokyo Ghoul, which is the dumbest argument and one of the biggest. I cannot believe I have to say this in the year of our Lord 2025.
Okay. All right. Let's hear it.
Anime and cartoons are not just for children.
Okay.
I like.
I wasn't sure where you're going with that for a second, but there we go. Okay. Yep.
Like that's the main argument I heard for Tokyo Ghoul is that
Really?
yes, is that anime is for kids and we shouldn't have a kids thing in the game. But I don't even have to go watch it. Just go look up a clip from Tokyo Ghoul and tell me this shit is for kids. Tell me.
If you look up Tokyo Ghoul clip, you're gonna get that one with a hamburger.
But, okay, yeah. fair enough. Okay, that one, whatever. Anyways,
aside from that one, yeah, no, you're 100% right.
But like the thing with that one that makes no sense to me too is like, have you guys seen the Mori?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think
I actually had to get someone explain to me why he says what's 1,000 minus 7 in that, because that just confused me.
But regardless, like you think they just came up with the Mori out of nowhere? like again, going back to Teletubbies, you think if they added Teletubbies to this video game, that they would just make it the Mori, like the Tokyo Ghoul Mori, they would just make something up? No. All right, the Teletubby Mori would be the sun, the babyface sun, crashing into the map and killing everybody. Okay, as God intended.
Smiting the unholy realm.
There you go, behavior. That one's free, but like you know, going like a little bit going back to because like even the surveys, we do these surveys like how often do they come up? It's like every 3 months, right? Every time, like a little bit after the new chapter drops, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And you know they always have those like what chapters would you like to see, and every single time there's like 50 options. And even as someone who's on the sense of like anything can fit if they want it to, there are some options in there. Even I'm like, really? But then I pull back my bias and I think about it for a minute. I think one of the more recent one that I saw on there that like really blew my mind was even on there was Deep Rock Galactic.
Yeah, that one always was kind of odd to me.
Here's the thing.
I think some of those are them looking to see if their players play those kind of games, if they'd be interested in it. You know, like rest in peace, Project T.
Oh my God.
The most promising DBD spinoff yet that got canceled. I feel like they were doing market research for that with some of those questions. Absolutely, because Payday 3 was on there, and I mean, there is a historical connection between the two. But still.
Well, it could also be them like trying to see like I mean it's the same thing, right? Seeing if their player base plays those games. It could also be seeing like who they could collab for and this brings up a whole other thing with like not even just chapters, right? We brought it up with the Attack on Titan thing, but cosmetic collabs, right? What fits cosmetically in this game? Because like all right, I'm going to piss off so many people with this one. As I've done, as I said, like 6 times. Does Bunny Fong really fit in Dead by Daylight?
Oh no! Oh no! He went there.
I said it. I fucking said it. But
damage control. Come on, quickly.
but no. But I'm not even saying it doesn't. I'm asking the question though. Does it? Does it? Based on all the arguments for the things that quote don't fit the game, does Bunny Fong fit? And if it does, why is it the exception?
You know, that's a wonderful question, and you're gonna have a lot of fun reading the comments about it. and you know what? If you need a bucket of popcorn, I can lend you it. But you're doing that one on your own, buddy.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I think that is kind of a. I think the answer to that, my answer to that, would be maybe like a long time ago it wouldn't have, but at the time that it was introduced, we'd already seen. I don't want to say similar cosmetics, but like. I guess things like, we'd already start to see it go that way, so people didn't really care. Plus, it was a community thing, so they got a quote unquote pass because it was a community thing.
Yeah, but again, it's funny, and I'm about to do the us versus them argument for a quick second, because this one actually this one actually does make me mad. I'm kind of upset that survivors get all the quote funny cosmetics and killers really don't get any.
Like, we've gotten the wolf for unknown. We've gotten Mr. Cuddles for clown. We got the chicken for clown. Actually, we just got clown.
Clown.
Think about
it. It's just clown. Why? I get it. Like, he's a clown. I get it. But can we? What?
Crab Dredge. We got to include Dredge in this as well. Dredge has got some pretty silly ones too.
But is that silly? Because I would think that's kind of scary. It's like crabs are kind of terrifying, honestly. Yeah, you ever looked at a crab face to face, eye level? like honestly,
yes, I have actually. Yeah.
Those mandibles are pretty not pleasing to look at. Looking at a close up.
I've always found them as very silly little creatures, but I can understand the discomfort.
Yeah, it's like looking at a praying mantis up close. It's kind of cool from far away and mid range, but once you get into it, where you're seeing the follicles, it's okay.
They are rather strange looking.
It's okay. But that's the thing. It's and this isn't me trying to say there's a bias on the survivor end. My point is I feel like we've crossed this line with what, quote, isn't horror and already does fit in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And clown gets a pass again because he's a clown. Clowns are already a horror trope, and now you're just kind of leaning into it.
Right.
But even with unknown, I wouldn't say the wolf one is necessarily a funny skin. I think it's funny out of context, but when you really look into it, I think it's actually it's still pretty scary. Because it's unknown with the unnatural movements and such.
Yeah.
But
that's just unknown.
Yeah.
That's unknown. I'm so accustomed to it. It's not even that's my goofy little boy right there, but I do know that a lot of people find unknown to be one of, if not the scariest in the game.
Yeah, and that also leads into the idea of desensitization. I have 2 degrees. Desensitization. Being unsensitized to fucking Porky Pig today, I swear. But that also leads into the idea of the being desensitized to certain things, and a lot of the player base is at this point I don't know very many people who play Survivor that are genuinely scared of, other than people with phobias. Phobias are different. And let me use this word in the way that the DMC5 has it listed. Technically speaking, it is considered irrational fears. However, that doesn't mean what I think people think it means. Irrational has a context to it that it means it's bad. It doesn't. It just whatever. The point is okay, I have a phobia of crows. I do not have an irrational phobia of crows. There's a difference, right? If I see a crow on the street, I might move to the side, right? I'm not gonna run away in fear. However, people with irrational phobias we'll see, like, let's say they're irrationally have an arachnophobia of spiders, let's say. We'll see a spider, scream at the top of their lungs, and either fight or flight, run away, or stomp the shit out of it, right? That's the difference. Right? I don't know how to tell you this. You're talking to it. I'm aware of the irony that one of my repeat guests is a crow, okay?
I like to think of that as like a bonus point.
Yeah, you're one of the good ones.
Okay.
I have never been able to say that in my life. All right.
You know what? This is an appropriate context. Good job. But I was going to add on to your point about like phobias. Yeah, because the big one for me is spiders. I hate spiders. There was a what do you call it? There was a banana spider. That it was a massive one. It showed up out like at the corner of my house, and I had to go and take care of it because I know banana spiders aren't the most dangerous thing in the world, but I've got an old dog who's very blind, and the last thing I wanted him to do was run into its nest because it set up its nest quite literally from the roof to the ground, and my dog could have very well walked into it. And let me tell you, I went out there with a shovel, and it felt like I was about to fight God. Like my body was like, "You should not be doing this. You should not. Nah, we should be everywhere else." So I get it.
I mean, it's like, have you seen a camel spider before?
Oh no, I hate those.
Yeah, like listen, I'm not scared of spiders. I'm scared of camel spiders though. And the sad thing about camel spiders, and this is why it's weird that I'm scared of them, they're not dangerous at all.
Yeah, I know. It's always the worst. The worst looking ones are oftentimes the most tame.
Yeah, it's like what's the other, like? There's like a really it's like a crab spider, right? Like they're huge. They're not even technically they're not even technically spiders. They're more crab than spider, but they're terrifying. It's just something like that shouldn't be that big. It's just how my brain is looking at it. It's like people ask me why I'm scared of crows. The reason I'm scared of crows is because I've seen crows operate vending machines with no training, and no animal should be that fucking smart. I'm just saying, and it's the same reason why I'm kind of scared of dolphins too. Like, not to the same degree as crows, because not gonna lie to you guys, I don't really see dolphins in my day-to-day life. I don't drive to work and I see a dolphin land on my roof. Okay, like it doesn't happen most days. Like again, like it leads. I don't even know where this started at this point.
I think it was phobias. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was phobias, but but that's the thing. It's like, because that's a way you can get around the phobias too. Is I think dredge is a good example of this. The crab dredge skin, right? Technically speaking, someone with arachnophobia should be, and there probably are some people who are still terrified of that skin. Like they get effects from seeing it, right? Because of the legs and because of like the mandibles and such. But however, that is one way to get around the phobia thing, is to make something so exaggerated that it kind of like bleeds out of the phobia. I think clown is not the best example, but what I think they were trying to do with clown by making him like kind of disgusting looking. Where like it's a clown, and people who are scared of clowns are going to be scared of it. But by making him a little bit, a little bit like like the unconventional looking clown, like it kind of like helps that a little bit. Then there's other things like Plague's vomit and things like that. That's a little bit harder. Even though I've heard the suggestion to make like the vomit rainbows. Which, honestly, I'm all for it. That sounds hilarious.
That does sound rather funny.
And, that also bleeds into the question of, like, how serious should Dead by Daylight be? Because, like, they're like, we talked about Rainbow Six Siege earlier, and it's like, the Pickle Rick skin is one I bring up from Rainbow Six Siege a lot. I bought that shit day one. I brought that shit day one, so I can't even talk. But, sometimes it's nice to have, like, a jokey skin like that. Like every now and again. Or to have like an out there license like Nick Cage. Like if we got a Nick Cage chapter, like a chapter like Nick Cage every couple of years, I think it would be fine. I think it works.
Especially if, and this is something I think a lot of people kind of underrate about Nick Cage, is all of his perks are like the perfect balance of goofy and genuinely useful.
Yeah.
I mean, dramaturgy. I've been a day one dramaturgy fan. I think we talked for almost 30 minutes about dramaturgy the first time I came on here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been a day one believer in dramaturgy. People were underrating it, and look, here we are, almost a year later, and people are finesse dramaturgy is one of the main things that people run now, and plot twist. It might not be meta, but I think a lot of people recognize now that plot twist is crazy good. And scene partner, a lot of people, everybody thinks of Scream and Steve when they hear about scene partner, and that's the goofy side, but scene partner is a genuinely useful perk.
Yeah.
And I think everybody has come to the point where they acknowledge, yeah, these are goofy perks, but they're also incredibly good. Or at the very least, like upper 25, maybe 30% of perks in the game for survivors.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and again, like even with like killer, but even with like killer design, again, like can we kind of admit that like Trickster is kind of goofy?
A little bit, yeah.
Or even like I'm trying to think of like the other ones. Like, I mean, Clown's probably goofy on purpose, but even like like Houndmaster, like with all the bugs and stuff, especially on her release, like
unintentionally goofy.
Yeah, unintentionally goofy, but like it was still goofy, and people still had a laugh about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this game, like I don't think can be as serious as people want it to be. It can have that serious aesthetic, and I don't think anything has broken that apart from skins. And I think that's the line for me is skins. Right? I think skins being goofy is perfectly fine. And I think characters like Chucky is comedy horror. There's a lot of people, not a lot, but there's some people who still think Chucky doesn't fit in because he's not really a true horror character.
Okay, well, bye Ghostface.
Yeah, exactly. Like, like Ghostface's character himself isn't funny or like goofy, but like what people can do with him is, and like even like
and just the Scream, even though he's technically not Scream, we cannot deny the connection.
Yeah,
it's impossible. It is a part of the character. Even if we didn't get the Scream license, you can't separate like Ghostface from Scream. Even if Danny Johnson, right, that's his name, I believe, is the best like half license we've gotten, and is probably one of Behavior's best creations, it still is linked to Scream through the Ghostface. And the gameplay, you can tell, was very heavily inspired from it. Because it is almost Scooby-Doo-ish, the way that you just like, ooh, I'm looking at you, oh, you're not looking at me, ooh, well, it feels very silly.
Yeah, and you bring up Scooby-Doo. I actually did want to bring that up at some point. Scooby-Doo is one that I have personally said I don't think makes sense as a chapter. I've said this so many times.
Collection, though.
Skins, yeah, skins for sure. But Scooby-Doo is a weird one because people bring up Scooby-Doo, I don't want to say a lot. To preface this, whenever I say a lot or a lot of people or most people, I'm being hyperbolic. Like, it's really not that many people, but I see it enough to where it seems like it's a lot of people. But like Scooby-Doo is one over the years that people have wanted in the game. And my question to that is, how is Scooby-Doo horror enough for this game, but Tokyo Ghoul isn't?
Yeah, that's...
And at that point, it leads me to the question of, is it literally just the stigma behind anime? And
I think it very well could be. And once again, I think we need to specifically talk about the problem with Tokyo Ghoul coming in is a lot of people hate the anime for it. They love the books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, speaking from personal experience here, my best friend, I've known him since like a long time. I don't remember exactly when. That's how long it's been. There was a time in his life where he absolutely loved Tokyo Ghoul. He got the first book at like the school library or something, which we're not going to talk about why that was a school library, but that's where he got the first one. And then he went and he bought the rest of them. And he was like, dude, this is so cool. You got to read it. And I was always kind of like, yeah, maybe, anyways, he's like, one day he's all excited. He's like, dude, there's a show about Tokyo Ghoul. I'm like, oh, really? That's cool. Are you going to watch it? He's like, yeah, tonight. I found a website. I'm going to watch it tonight. The next day I asked him, he's like, he was still excited for it. And then about a couple weeks later was the last time I ever heard anything about Tokyo Ghoul. Like the show was so bad it killed his interest in the franchise. I don't know if that's the common experience from it. But I know the person I talked to last night to explain like the basics. I don't have the time right now to sit down and watch like a 3-season show. But I got somebody explain the basics of Tokyo Ghoul to me last night, and like why does he do the finger thing, and that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And even they said, yeah, I would have rather not watched the show or something like that.
Mm.
And I wonder if that's part of the problem, because like I said earlier, with the Steam, a lot of people were saying, why Tokyo Ghoul for the anime chapter, when most people consider the anime to be bad.
Well, I mean, I think, in my opinion, I think Tokyo Ghoul is the most obvious one to do.
Because it's so blatantly like horrific.
Not just that, it's just like, again, like I've never watched or read Tokyo Ghoul, and I know of it, and I can't think of very many other like horror adjacent anime stuff that I would have personally picked. But maybe that's also part of the problem. Maybe people feel like it's not. Ironically, maybe people feel it wasn't like anime enough. Like, if that makes any sense. Like maybe some people feel like it wasn't like not necessarily the best choice, but like a choice for like anime fans that would have enjoyed it because of the stigma behind the anime for Tokyo Ghoul.
Right.
Like like again, so someone brought up a chat too. It's like it probably is the most popular horror manga / anime, because I really can't think of very many more off the top of my head. And the other thing, and this is the thing with the anime argument though that I do want to bring up, because people say the anime doesn't fit into Dead by Daylight. One, anime is a broad genre. Two,
yeah,
Castlevania. Just saying.
I think it worked perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And once again, I think we need to, put this in the dirt and hang on it, so to speak. We have to acknowledge the fact that for Dead by Daylight to exist 3 years from now, anime pretty much has to be in the game. There is no two ways about it. Between the lack of, more classic slashers that we talked about earlier, between the massive, Japanese player base that this game has, that I feel like most people don't talk about. It's gotten a little better since, but I think people don't realize just how massive it is over there. When I was researching for the Castlevania anime DBD video, right, I was blown away. Like, the community over there is probably an equivalent size to the English community when, like, compared to, like, the Japanese population. We've got the entire English-speaking world, and they have, like, I guess, similarly scaled community. Obviously, numbers-wise, it's not that big, but, like, percentage of people who know about DBD is probably similar, if not higher, over there. And over there, once again, collaborations are massive for them over there. They're everywhere. I mean, you can't go to like their equivalent of a 7-Eleven. I think they're called Kobeanies, right? You can't go into one without seeing like Hello Kitty or like some other like licensed product. They're just staring at you when you walk into the store, constantly. And they have a big culture of buying collaborations and stuff. And for a game whose lifeblood, let's be real here, is collaborations, you want a community like that.
Right. And again, like that goes into the idea of like branching out the brand and like trying to keep like, because that's the other, I think Ringu was another example of this. And this wasn't an example of people like saying it didn't fit. This was an example of people asking why.
Why Ringu instead of the Ring? And the answer is because Ringu sold very well. That wasn't the first license from Japan, was it? No, we had a couple other before it, but I know that was the first one that overperformed over there and didn't perform as well here.
Yeah, well, and another similar thing happened with Skull Merchant, right? People were like, Skull Merchant, and listen, I'm not going to get into like the full details, but basically, Dead by Daylight's also huge in Brazil.
Yes,
yeah,
it is as well. That's probably number 3.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
And actually, isn't the West like the least? Am I wrong in that? Or not the least, but like it's really not up there, is it?
It's pretty high up there. I think if you combine both, when you combine all of like the English speaking, it's number one. But if you break it into like UK, America, etc., Canada, etc., they're all kind of low. It's a collective that brings it to number one, but without them, they're all fairly low. When you compare to something like, once again, Brazil, Japan, I think Korea as well has a pretty big following.
So someone did bring up that Silent Hill was technically Japanese.
Yes, Silent Hill. I think Silent Hill was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, but the weird thing about that one is that no one complained.
Well, yeah, because it also Silent Hill also has a long and storied history here.
Yeah.
With like being the games, and Silent Hill was important for other reasons because that was them doing the same thing they're now doing with Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah, they're branching out into another media.
Exactly, and they have to do it. They had to do it back then, and they've got to do it again now. And honestly, all the people are saying, "Oh, it shouldn't be anime." Like, okay, let's say they don't do another anime chapter ever again. How do they stay alive? I mean, they've branched out into FPS. Why don't we get Alex Mason in here from COD? Let's get Alex Mason.
The numbers. What do they mean, Mason? It means you have one gen left till the gate opens. Anyway, like, I mean, that's the other, and like, we talked earlier how they pulled a lot of the iconic ones already, and it's like, okay, so movies are not done, but we're running out of horror movies. Like, let's be real with ourselves. Even if they added every single license from a horror movie in the past, let's say 40 years, that's like what, 5 chapters? Like, I'm not kidding. Like, that's like 5 chapters, right? Give or take.
Considering which ones would be like genuinely able to be ported into Dead by Daylight, yeah, 5. Like,
yeah,
there's not many left. And they've got to go somewhere.
And then video games. I mean, listen, I love horror video games, but when was the last actual horror video game that's released in the past like 2 years? That wasn't.
What do you mean, bro? Garden of Banban number 27 got released a couple days ago, bro. Come on, man.
listen, as a fan of stealth games, I will admit there hasn't been a real stealth game in like 5 years. The new Styx is coming out. That's the last one we're getting for a while. But yeah, like honestly, like that's the thing with like the FNAF thing. It's like, okay, we need to pull from video games. Okay, what, genuinely speaking, other than Resident Evil and another Silent Hill chapter, what other horror games other than like Dead Space do we realistically have to pull from?
And to add on to it more, if you don't like Springtrap, okay, Google mascot horror icons and pick one. Pick one of those that's better than Springtrap.
Bimby.
You've got a rotten killer. You've got like a rotten corpse that's been brought back to life of like a kid killer, right? Or you can have you can have vague ink monster, or you can have Huggy Wuggy.
Huggy Wuggy, come on, Huggy Wuggy's kind of scary though.
Like, yeah, the design's not terrible, but like, which do you really want to have to? Do you want to have to be the one in the format to say, "Hey guys, I think it's Huggy Wuggy"? Like, do you want to have to be the one to go, "Hey guys, I think it's a Huggy Wuggy. I heard his terror radius."
Like, listen, okay, let me just say this. By the way, I have no hate towards Poppy Playtime, other than the obvious hate towards it.
Yeah, like, it's no disrespect, but like, if we're talking about a mascot horror icon that fits in DBD, the one that fits the best out of the major ones is Springtrap, and I don't think there's really any arguing that. Yeah, he is the closest. Like we said, he's got a lot of similarities with Chucky. So unless you're one of those people that really thinks Chucky doesn't fit either, odds are you're going to agree with me.
Well, some people are mentioning other things in chat, like Outlast. Outlast, I think, is a good pick. Okay,
Outlast and BioShock? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and BioShock's a weird one, and not because I don't think it'll fit, but I think that's another contentious one as far as, is that actually horror? I would argue it is, but like, would people like make the argument that it kind of doesn't fit because it's not like traditional horror? Because that's more like capitalistic, like indulgence horror. I know I'm making up words for horror a lot in this. It's just to make it more clear on what like kind of, because again, there's horror is such a broad thing. But you know, and then like again though, so Dead Space, Outlast, BioShock. What else? That's 3. So that's 3 of those. That's 5 or give or take for the movie ones. Then what? Like,
yeah, there's not much.
like, and again, like the BioShock one and the Outlast one, while I think would be good chapters for the game, like BioShock, I hate to tell people this. It's the same thing I tell people about Ratchet and Clank. Everyone knows that video game, but it is not as popular as a lot of us think it is.
Yeah. Like everybody's heard of them, but how many people actually played them?
Or are fans
of a lot of those
it.
like old, you got to remember a lot of those old like best-selling games, those were best-selling by those standards. That means that like at most, maybe 800,000 copies sold. Or if it was really like Resident Evil crazy, let me look this up before I make myself look dumb. How many copies did original Resident Evil sell? 2.75 million copies, which don't get me wrong, that's a lot.
That's over
but if we look at go on.
That's also over the past 30 years.
You're right. Yeah. That's a lot of copies, don't get me wrong. That's far from an unsuccessful game. But if you compare it to the amount of copies of modern games that are selling that are like the quote unquote everybody's played this, it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. I mean that's always something that like blows people's minds all the time. It's like, what's the most popular game in the world? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's still Minecraft, but it's
Minecraft or Tetris.
Yeah,
it's one of the two.
Yeah, I think it fluctuates, but it's Minecraft and Tetris. Those are 2 games that not literally, but almost literally everybody has heard of. It's the same thing with like I'm trying to think of like Outlast is another good example. Like I know it's a popular franchise, but it's not as popular as I think people think it is. Like it's the same difference with like when I bring up FNAF, it's like my mom knows what FNAF is. My mom, mind you guys, I'm 30. My mom is not young. Like she didn't grow up in the internet age. She barely knows how to go on YouTube. It's like that's the thing with this, and we're getting to a point where not only are we losing like not just options, but just like decent options that would even be worth bringing in. And I know popularity doesn't dictate what would be best for the game. It doesn't, and it shouldn't with all chapters. But at the end of the day, it is a business. The game does have to stay alive.
Right.
So like sometimes there's going to be chapters that like people just don't like but they have to be added in because of the popularity in different subcultures in different parts of the world. Tokyo Ghoul and Ringu being good examples of this. And then there's ones that like cross borders, like Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Like those are two those are 2 franchises that are Japanese franchises that are very popular in the West as well. Like it's just how it is.
Right, and I think now is a good time to bring up another one of those franchises that I saw talked about in chat earlier, and that is Death Note. And I'm going to anger some people here. I don't think... Let's be real here. I do not want Light Yagami as a killer. You do not want him as a killer. You do not want a killer who sits in a corner, writes in a book, and you die. That's not what you want in gameplay. Like what are they gonna do with that? Make him steal your ID like in the Among Us version of that? like what? I just don't see how that would work as a killer. That being said, if you wanna have him as like as a survivor, sure, we could use some more like evil survivors in the game, kind of like Tori and Yunjin to a degree. I think that's fine. But I see so many people talking about, oh, they need to add Death Note now. And Death Note would be an objectively good choice. Not only was it pretty popular over there, not only is it one of the most popular animes in the world, it also had just a really big following here in the States. I mean, I mean, my introduction to it, as somebody who just at the time did not care at all about anime, was anytime I walked into Hot Topic, there was just a pile of Death Notes by the door. Like every single one. Doesn't matter where you went. Right there, like left-hand side, you go in the door, there's your Death Note section. A Death Notes, chibis of the characters, shirts of it. The blonde girl, what's her name? Misa?
Don't look
Everywhere.
at me. Yeah.
Everywhere. That's another one of those big ones. But I'm worried we're going to get it eventually. I feel like if we keep getting anime chapters, which at this point we are, let's be real here, there's no denying that, we're probably going to get a Death Note one.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very worried that there's going to be a killer involved with it. Survivor paragraph, awesome. Skin collection, sure, why not? Give me what's his name? The funny demon dude. Ryuk, the funny demon dude.
Mm-hmm.
Give me him for Unknown. I saw a really cool concept skin for that. Give me him for Unknown. Bring in the owl. The other. I watched it. I watched the show somewhat recently, but I binged it all in like 3 days just because that's how I watch a show. Is I'm like, okay, I'll watch it all in 3 days, but I never remember stuff. There was like an owl dude. Give him dredge, but do not make them killers, please. Please, I do not want to have to deal with guy writes a notebook and you die. And plus, let's go into they don't look scary. He is just a dude. Like, people want to say Trickster is just a dude. Light Yagami is quite literally the definition of just a dude. He looks like Asian Dwight Fairfield for half the show. Like,
Like, and again, like it also brings, like, another one I bring up, and this is on the opposite end of the spectrum, is like Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. Kind of in the same vein as Scooby-Doo, where it's like, is that hard? Yeah, but like some people like want Ghostbusters in the game. It's like, okay, so Ghostbusters is fine, but Death Note and Tokyo Ghoul are crossing the line. You know what I mean?
I just
like my problem with it is more I hate using this word, but it's the hypocrisy. It's like, right. It's like, oh well, this gets a pass for some reason. And the reason 9 times out of 10 is either nostalgia or it was in the 80s, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, they both kind of cross into that same vein. But like, again, it's. I think Freddy's been on. Freddy gameplay's been in the background for this the whole time. But like, Freddy, I think is another good example because I've heard the argument that Robert Englund's Freddy just wouldn't fit Dead by Daylight.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't agree. Because he was still a sadistic fuck. Like,
yes, he absolutely was an evil creature.
So, like again, like, the argument is like, oh, he's too goofy. Okay, he didn't start getting goofy till, like, the later sequels, and even then, like, Chucky's goofy and it's just fine. Again, like, Goofy doesn't, like, absolve if anything, it elevates it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's having fun doing this.
Yeah, he's having fun tormenting you to death. He's enjoying this. There is no higher or honorable purpose. Once again, going back to Predator, searching out worthy foe, or, someone like Leatherface who doesn't really understand the actions and he's just doing what he's been told to do and been taught to do all his life. These people, they know what they're doing. They know it's wrong, and they're having the time of their lives doing it.
Yeah, like, I mean, I talk crap about Chucky laughing when he's undetectable, but bro's just having a good time. He's just happy to be here, right? Like, I can't fault him for that. Like,
I mean, who doesn't let out a little giggle when they're doing something a little sneaky, Like,
I mean, to be fair, I laugh uncontrollably every time I hit a Chuck spot, so, like, I'm right there with him. But, like, it's again, like, it's just the hypocrisy of it. It's like, okay, well, anime doesn't work because, quote, and again, the big argument I hear is just, it's for kids. That is legitimately the only, and I'm going to use this word in heavy quotes, reasonable argument I ever hear for why, quote, anime doesn't fit in Dead by Daylight.
Mm-hmm.
And again, one, that's not true, and two, like, that's just such a dumb argument. Technically, Ghostbusters 2 was for kids. The director straight up said it, right? Like they try to make it silly and more fun because the kids watch the first movie. But like, again, like it just comes back around to the circle of like, I think the real question isn't like what doesn't belong in Dead by Daylight. The real question is what does belong in Dead by Daylight. And like you said earlier, it really just comes down to whatever they can make fit. And that line isn't the line for what fits isn't it's not concrete. It's always moving. Always. And some could argue it's a slippery slope argument, but I mean it is, but like I played Destiny 2. Destiny 2 had a D&D collab at the same time Dead by Daylight did. I wonder if that's
did they really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I wonder if that's a coincidence.
I wonder.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like 7 games had D&D collabs at the same time. It's almost like Wizards of the Coast was like trying to make some money or something. Anyways,
wow, who could have believed that, you know?
But you know, like again, like and they just had a collab with Star Wars recently. Like
really,
and Destiny isn't like it's not the most serious franchise in the world, but it has a lot of serious moments. But like no one really batted an eye at it or said like it didn't fit. Dead by Daylight is the weirdest game because it seems like one of the few where people kind of get mad about it.
Yeah, honestly, I think that is part just because of the culture that Dead by Daylight has kind of accumulated. You know, we as a community, we like to stomp our feet. Let's be 100% honest here. Like we said earlier, you know, we didn't have content for a couple months and people just started tearing each other apart for fun. Like
well, and even like I think I'm trying to think of like a more recent example of this in like a game. Like again, I brought up Rainbow Six Siege with some of its goofier skins. A lot of people got upset, but no one I never even when I was in the community, no one was like outright mad about it. They just thought it was
roll their eyes about it. You know, they called Nier Automata cringe, and then they moved on with their lives.
Yeah, like that's the thing. And I think the other big difference is that it you know, it's like a whole chapter. It's not just a skin, I guess, is the difference with Dead by Daylight. But like, you know, Darth Vader's being mentioned in the chat. That's actually what I see. Not a lot of people, but I have seen people bring up Darth Vader in Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, especially recently. Yeah, there was a bit of a conversation about Star Wars and DBD for a while. And honestly, my take is if we really think about it, Darth Vader's probably one of the best non-horror licenses that they could get. Because yeah, I don't think anybody in their right mind will argue that Star Wars, especially the movies, is a horror franchise. But if you really think about it, a lot, especially in the first movie, the way that Darth Vader is handled in those movies is like straight out of a slasher movie. I mean, think about the time, that opening iconic scene where it's just, they blast through the door and he comes out of the smoke and, he just kills like 10 people in a couple seconds,
Have you well, there's actually 2 other instances of this that are like very famous. As much as I enjoy this movie, everyone else hates it. Rogue One, the last scene when like he's in like the dropship the dropship tube that's like where they're like sending the data through for the Death Star. Like he's covered in black. Like, they're looking down the hall, you don't see anything, it's just a shadow. And then his lightsaber just lights up. And then, like, it's like heart-seeking. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And then there's a scene in... Did you play Jedi Survivor?
No, I have not.
I forget if it's Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order. It's the one... It's the Dark Souls one. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. I know of the game, I just haven't played it.
Yeah, in the Dark Souls one... the Dark Souls one. In that one, there's a scene at the end of the game where you're talking with the Inquisitor, and she's like trying to she's starting to turn to your side, and then you can hear it so slightly. You hear Darth Vader's theme start playing, and then like she like pauses for a second, and then like her eyes just like go to oh fuck, and then she gets killed. Like and this is a boss fight. You can't win. You have to run. You can't fight him. You just run.
Right.
But like Darth Vader is like treated like it's like super all powerful. I mean, he is like this super all powerful being that no one can actually defeat.
Right.
And I think part of the reason why a lot of people don't like consider it, one, is because Star Wars can be like kind of a goofy franchise, but two, I think it's
It can be,
I think it's because a lot of the movies don't really do Darth Vader justice.
especially after the first one. Once he's an established character,
Uh-huh.
yeah, he's less horrific, but he could definitely. I think he could fit the role of a DVD slasher pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he could, and I kind of encourage people to try and point out other characters from non-horror franchises that are given that same kind of horrific treatment, you know?
Yeah, and again, it's like, well, it doesn't fit DBD, but I think we are opening the floodgates with that, with again with the Tokyo Ghoul chapter in particular, but even with like again with like Nicolas Cage,
Hmm.
like I think that was the truth, or even Laura Croft, like Laura Croft, I think was one that sparked a lot of controversy on like, does she fit? Does she fit Dead by Daylight? And again, Laura I'm sorry, Laura was a differing thing because she was a survivor, not a killer. And the argument that me and many people brought up is, one, play the 2013 remake and tell me it's not a horror game, and two, it's literally called the Survivor Trilogy.
Yeah. I think that's also kind of, the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking that maybe we could divide all chapters into one of two, like they're either a horror edition or a vibe edition,
Mm-hmm.
where their inclusion just kind of, when you look at the lore of DBD, they just kind of make sense. Like, Laura Croft is someone, if you really look at who she is and the lore of the game, it kind of just makes sense that she'd end up in the entities realm.
Yeah.
Almost similar to Alan Wake and even Nicolas Cage, if you think about it. Like, I feel like even if they aren't exactly horror, they still kind of, they have enough of the vibes to make it work.
Yeah, and I also think like you brought up like the community that's been established. I do think part of
Hmm.
it is that like for a while there, all we were getting license wise was like these slashers. There
And
was,
that's what the game's built around. So I can
yeah,
understand hesitation, but
yeah,
I feel like the game's, especially nowadays, if this was back in like like year 2 or year 3, I can understand the hesitation of it.
hmm
But I feel like it's more of a, the ship has sailed. We just got a ball from this point on, like let's roll with it. Let's see what happens. Teletubbies, yeah, sure, why not?
Why
I mean,
not? Let's see what happens.
why not at this point? You
That
know?
Maury is still on the table behavior. I don't need a commission or anything. Um, but like, yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. It because again, I'm trying to think of like other chapters that have been like talked about that like I personally feel like wouldn't fit aesthetically or whatever. But
Hmm.
like I still wouldn't care if they got added. Again, Ghostbusters and Scooby Doo are good examples. Even if it was a chapter, right, not a skin line. Like, do I think it fits? No, but like I'm not going to be upset it's in the game. I could see it like it's also like again, time is a healer of all wounds. I can
Hmm.
promise you, in like 2 years, no one is going to give a crap that Tokyo Ghoul is in Dead by Daylight. No one's gonna care, and I mean that in the best way possible. Not like, oh,
Hmm.
no one gives like cares about the character, but like no one's gonna be like, oh, they added animated Dead by Daylight. Like no one's gonna care. Same with FNAF. Same with Nick Cage. Same with Laura. They're just gonna be part of the game unless the
Yep.
licensing goes away. Uh,
Shout out Pinhead.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, rest in peace,
We're
my
never
boy.
getting the reunion tour of Pinhead Springtrap and 2v8. That's never happening.
I don't know if any devs at Behavior listen to these, but if you do, I want to say whoever is in charge of the social media account for Dead by Daylight right now, kudos to you for like rubbing salts in the wound to the license holders for Pinhead.
Honestly, DBD social team's been going off like crazy recently,
Oh
though.
yeah, yeah, they've been doing very good. I have
Yeah,
some.
that's something we can't, like. There's no arguing that they've been doing incredible with it. They're actually answering questions, and they're interacting with people and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. I don't know what management change happened.
They liked my Kin Enough tweet.
Exactly. Yeah, they're active in the community now. All of a sudden, it was like a switch flipped. That's why I think it was a management change or decision, right? Because suddenly, just overnight, pretty much,
I
they're everywhere now, and it's perfect. Keep it up.
Yeah, I can't say too much. But if you for those listening, by the way, you should check out the Hens interview I did as well. That's actually
Hmm.
up today for those on the stream. You should definitely go listen to that because Hens talks about that a little bit. But yes, that is actually exactly what happened.
There was a management
There was
decision. I feel like it had to be.
there was a man. So okay, from what I understand, again,
Hmm.
I'm gonna.
You can't say too much. I
Well,
get
no,
it.
it's not that I can't say too much. Is that like I'm getting secondhand knowledge from other people.
Hmm.
But from what I understand, there was basically like 6 people in charge of everything.
Right.
That's what was going on. There was like six. There was too many chefs in the kitchen.
Hmm.
There was like 4 people in charge of the balance team. There was like 3 people in charge of like the licensing team. There was like 2 people in charge. Like, and the only team that was like really kind of like doing their own thing was the art team.
That makes a lot of sense because they were always. I feel like everybody always said that nobody complained about the art team in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I did not hear a single complaint about the art team. Granted, they're the art team. You got to really mess up to get a complaint as of the art team,
Mm-hmm.
But even still, like everyone, I can't tell you how many times, oh, this chapter's garbage, but the art team, you're perfect. Keep doing
Also,
what you're doing.
also to clear that up, I'm just throwing numbers out. I don't know the specifics, but from what I have been
Right.
told, that is what was happening. Is that there was just too many people in charge. Um, And now that they've
Hmm.
kind of downsized it a bit, and I don't mean that in the sense of like the layoffs. What I mean is
Right.
just
They
like
remanaged
that.
things.
Yeah, they've reorganized and remanaged, and now like there's a final say. Because honestly speaking, the more I thought about that, that explains why changes took so long.
Hmm.
Because it's like if you have 4 people who make decisions and none of them can agree, things are going to take 6 months to change.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. Uh,
I mean, I
it
mean,
just
I mean,
it makes me hopeful, honestly.
yeah,
Because if you think about it, like this entire time, I think we talked about this in another one, right? Like the state of DBD or something. This is one of the most hopeful times for DBD it's had in years.
this this next 6 month span of DBD, in my opinion, is the turning point for this game, in a good way.
Hmm. Yeah.
I know I've been doom and gloom a bit about the FNAF chapter where I said it's going to decide the fate of this game.
Uh-huh.
But I'm hopeful about that me saying that now. I wasn't about 2 months ago. I really wasn't. But now I kind of am very hopeful about where this game is going to be in the next year. And I think Tokyo Ghoul and FNAF are honestly the turning point. Not just because their licenses like that quote don't fit the game, but
Hmm.
because it's behavior actually branching out, trying to expand the game.
And it really does feel right now that behavior is trying the most they have in a long, long time.
Hmm.
That is something that's another thing we can't really deny. They're trying. It might not work, but they are trying.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's all I can. That's all you can ask of somebody. Right? That's all you can ask
Yeah,
is that
exactly.
they try.
Nobody's gonna be perfect all the time.
Yeah, and it's again like this year. I still hold to this is going to decide the fate of this game. Um,
Absolutely. I
I
think right. Oh, go on.
I was gonna say I don't know how much longer this game has. Um, but I mean, Destiny's still going after 11 years. League of Legends is still going after what 16 years now. Um,
Hmm.
so like I don't know how long Dead by Daylight will go on for because of how niche the genre is, which is another thing we do kind of does need to brought up with the collabs, like you kind of mentioned earlier, and I kind of alluded to as well. There is a point when it's like the game can't stagnate, so they do have to branch out.
Right.
Um, but yeah,
And I think. Oh, go on.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think another big thing is this is the best chance they have to repair their kind of the reputation that the game has, because a lot of people who know about Dead by Daylight but don't play it, they actually have a negative opinion
Mm,
of this game. This is a story I've told a couple times. I don't know if on any of the podcasts, but uh, a little before we went to a little before we did the first podcast, I went out to a concert, right? And I was talking to some of the people there the day after, because I made a couple friends. And so I was sitting there talking with them, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do? What games do you play? That kind of stuff." I told them, Dead by Daylight. I play a lot of Dead by Daylight. I didn't mention the YouTube thing, but I was like, I play Dead by Daylight, and the vibe changed immediately. It was like I just announced that my grandfather died. They're like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a mess, but it's fun." They're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for
you." my coworker, because I mentioned that I make money on the side on YouTube, and they asked what I make videos on, and I said Dead by Daylight. He downloaded the game, and he played 3 matches, and he texted me the next day and was like, "I was gonna try and play with you, but I just can't. This game is not for me."
And you know what? He's smarter than the rest of us then.
Hell, my aunt, hi Aunt Robin, she listens to these. She listens to these podcasts. She likes.
Oh, hello.
As a she tries to support me any way she can. But she doesn't play video games or anything. But like she just. No, she's seen some of the bad things in this community too. And again, she doesn't even play video games, let alone Dead by Daylight, and she understands that this community, she understands the stigma behind this game.
Yep.
My one argument against that though is, and I mean this in the nicest way, I can't think of a popular game that's not like that.
There's very few, yeah.
Except for like Helldivers and Deep Rock Galactic. And even then...
Helldivers, Deep Rock Galactic, Lethal Company as well.
Yeah. And even then, Lethal Company is only good with actual people you know. And that's part of the reason why it is the way it is. Deep Rock Galactic and Helldivers are both PvE games, and they're also not as popular as we're letting on.
Yep. Not anymore, at least.
Deep Rock's
Thanks, Sony.
Deep Rock's getting a sequel soon, so...
It's getting a sequel? Really?
Yeah, they're going... it's going to be more customization options for the classes. And rather than making it a feature, they're just going to make it a whole new game so they can make it like a proper thing. Which is weird. Yeah. They made an auto shooter. Did you know
that? They're making a what?
They made an auto shooter, like Vampire Survivor.
Oh, I've got no idea what that genre even is, honestly. I've never heard of that.
You just move around and like your character kind of does everything for you. But you like go around collecting
it's kind of like I guess kind of like a bullet hell, but you're the one shooting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's weird that they did that. But then again, it's just like the Dead by Daylight like community. It's not even just the community. It's also the game. The game itself has a stigma. I know everyone brings up the community, but even the game itself being so unique makes it very unapproachable.
Yes, it's not like like let's take a real world example here. Marvel Rivals came out. Everybody loved the game. Everybody, I mean, half the community, Dead by Daylight, was just playing Marvel Rivals. It was everywhere, and it's a fun game. And with that game, a lot of what made it fun was the fact that it was third person, but if you'd put any time into any other hero shooter, and you knew even the just the basics of Marvel, you'd have a great time, because you already knew basically half of what you needed to know. You just had to learn the exacts of the character, you play Tracer in Overwatch, go play Star-Lord, whatever. That's part of why the game blew up so much as it did, is because it was new, it was fresh, but it was still familiar. Dead by Daylight doesn't have that. Anything that tries to be like Dead by Daylight tries to kill Dead by Daylight and then dies itself. There is, like, real talk, Identity V. What else?
VHS. That had a slew of other problems.
I hear that game's doing real well nowadays.
Yeah. On its private servers that you can only play with a mod.
Yeah, exactly.
That one's the most sad to me. TCM still going, kind of.
TCM.
Yeah. Even though it's different enough from Dead by Daylight, which is part of the reason why I think it did as good as it did. But yeah, it's, and that's the thing. It's like, because again, you said the Tokyo Ghoul chapter, like the Instagram and any of the social media stuff blows the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like like
Weebs United, and they are here to stay now.
Weebs United. But like again, it's a question of like branching out to other communities to try to bring them in. Even Castlevania, like I know we talked. I've mentioned before. I feel like that chapter was more Konami trying to get eyes on Castlevania than the other way around. But
absolutely,
it did work the other way around. Like I'm not gonna say it didn't, right? Or even like Chucky. Like again, like people say the chapter failed, but like Chucky is one of the most popular killers in all of horror franchise history. Like again, from an iconic perspective. Same with Xenomorph. And it brings in these different kinds of people and gets eyes to them for this game that they wouldn't see normally. Like let's say someone plays Alien Isolation. It's their favorite game, right? They played the AVP 2010 game, all of the stuff, right? Boom, boom, boom. They are never coming to Dead by Daylight. However, Xenomorph's in the game.
And now even if they don't play it, they've got that constant whisper in the back of their mind. Xenomorph.
Maybe not with the current changes.
Maybe not now that it takes a full minute to get the flames, but
like a minute.
That's a constant devil on their shoulder.
I think it's 109 seconds, by the way.
100.
Brand did the math. I don't remember exactly what it was, but like it's insane.
I knew it was bad, but
it's fucking bad.
Oh wow, that's not making it off the PTB. There's no
way. By the way, if this comes out before the PTB launches, which I don't think it will, but if it does, behavior, that shit cannot go through. Listen, I know the community like gets hyperbolic with like, oh, this character is dead now. Legitimately, and I mean this 100%. I think this is worse than what they did to Skull Merchant.
109 seconds. Just take him out into broad daylight and stomp him till he stops moving. Come on, at that point, be merciful. Like, wow.
I genuinely think this is worse than what they did to Skull Merchant. Because at least Skull Merchant's basic gameplay didn't change. Like some of her text changed, some of like the nuances changed. Xenomorph's entire gameplay changed from this. Like it's oh my god, it's the same thing with Chucky. Like people joked about Chucky having his kneecaps shot off after the change. And don't get me wrong, I like we could argue all day whether if it was a buff, a nerf, a side grade, whatever, but like fundamentally the character was still Chucky, right? Yeah, this is not Xenomorph anymore. This is not the same character at all.
It's a bug that just happened to walk into an arsonist convention,
like it's crazy. And and Xenomorph I think brings up another good point about adaptation though. And that's like there's the argument of Xenomorph wasn't adapted well. That one's been brought up a lot. It's like, oh, it's great they're in the game, but like where's the face huggers? Where's the chest bursters? Where's the wall crawling?
My argument to that is you think you want those. That's another one of those you think it'd be cool. No, it was not. There was this one like off-brand, I don't even want to call it off-brand DBD game because I don't think DBD was even out at this time. It was basically DBD but like on Roblox, and it was terrible. And that was the fun of it. You want to talk about a balancing nightmare? Oh, let's talk about Before the Dawn Redux. That oof. Anyways, they had the Xenomorph in there, quote unquote the Xenomorph, and it did have face huggers or chest bursters, and what its attack is when it hit you, it like built something up, and then when like after enough hits, you were on borrowed time before you were dead. You weren't dead, but it's like imagine a pig trap that you can't take off.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
And that was miserable.
Well, like, and that's the other thing. It's like a wall crawling. I mention this all the time. The 2010 AVP game had wall crawling when you played the Xenomorph. However, the entire game was designed around that.
Yeah, no, DBD cannot handle verticality. If Ken, the new guy, right, he has a grapple hook. If he can't go even slightly vertical, which I know he kind of technically can, but he doesn't actually, because you still get caught on like little rocks and everything. He can't go vertical. The killer with a grappling hook, no one can. We're lucky we can look up when playing Huntress and Unknown. Let's be real here. DBD is allergic to verticality because the game engine was just not designed for it.
Nemesis can't look up.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said we're lucky to be able to.
Only with the whip out. I need to mention that because someone's going to be like, actually, Nemesis can't look at. No, not with the whip out. You can't.
No, not with the whip out. No.
But the other thing is, like, I hear like wall crawling. It's like some people have suggested like Xenomorph should be able to just crawl over pallets. Oh, so you guys want Scamper in the game now? Okay. All right. Cool.
And let's talk about wall crawling. Sure, they can wall crawl. Let's take a look at this background gameplay right here. Okay, maybe not while you're getting blinded. Oh, that was a couple seconds ago. Okay. Let's take a look at just the tiles. Look how long these walls are. I don't care if you move at like 400% movement speed while you're wall crawling. Like, that's not going to do much for you if the wall is 5 feet long. You know? Like, realistically, yeah, it'd be cool on Larry's and RPD and everything, but realistically, it wouldn't do anything. It's the same thing as a crawler mode for Unknown. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool, maybe, you know, but like it wouldn't add anything super meaningful to the killer. You know,
it's like I've heard people say like Chucky shouldn't have had a dash; he should just be full stealth. And my response to that has always been, okay, you guys complain like he's underpowered now.
Like worse Ghostface, okay?
Yeah, like
you
for
really
real.
want a worse Ghostface?
like name one. Like Ghostface is in. I say this a lot, but Ghostface is pretty much the only truly stealth killer in the game. Even Wraith technically isn't a stealth killer. It's a different can of worms. But my point is like undetectability wise, like Ghostface is the only one. And unless Chucky also turned invisible, like. Like even then, like because he's small, they'd have to make him 110 still. Do you really want to play a killer who is only 110 and they're just a stealth killer? That's it. Like really? Like
spirit no phase kind of deal.
Yeah, like it again. Like you have to look at it the adaptations from the perspective of does it work in the game, and is it possible in the game? Because I think the wall crawling is an example of. Is this possible? And then also the functionality, like, okay, well, that also makes you map dependent now. Well, then we can just make it part of the power. Okay, well, then the rest of the kit has to be weakened down because of the power budget. Because you can't have a killer who has anti-loop tail, constant slowdown, can teleport around the map with tunnels, and can crawl on walls. The Xenomorph would literally be the perfect killer. There would be no contest pretty much, other than Nurse because Nurse exists.
Nurse is always going to be number one.
But you know, like that also leads into like the idea of like certain licenses people have wanted for a while that like, apart from like the legal ones, like again Stephen King and Jason, right? Like, those are legal issues. Those aren't like adaptation issues. But it's like, okay, well, what fits not only like the thematics and like the setting of Dead by Daylight, but also the gameplay of Dead by Daylight. That's another thing I think people tend to forget because, like you said with the Death Note one, it's like, could Death Note fit Dead by Daylight aesthetically and thematically? Yes, for sure. I think it could. Some would argue otherwise, but I think it could. Gameplay wise, though, no, probably not.
Not as a killer, at least. Not as a killer, no. I mean, a survivor, cosmetics, sure, why not? But
and you know,
no, that
also
I shudder at the thought.
We did miss a couple video games that people have mentioned a little bit. Until Dawn is another one. Until Dawn's problem is Wendigos are kind of a touchy subject.
Yeah, Behavior has already said that Wendigos are not coming to the game.
Yeah,
that is a hard deconfirm.
Yeah,
that's not even like we'd never do Chucky, because Chucky, it was like, we just don't know how we'd implement him. A Wendigo is, we cannot do that. That's not happening. That is not something that's possible for us to do.
And then The Last of Us. I mean, okay, here's the thing with The Last of Us. I think it could work, and I would love to see it, but I think it's another one where people would complain it's not horror enough.
Really? Isn't the I've never played the games. Isn't it a zombie apocalypse?
It is, but the horror is actually kind of from the humans more so.
Oh, okay. Well,
Um,
even still, I mean,
yeah, it's
yeah.
again, that's another one I think could work as a skin line, not so much a chapter, personally. But like I
Right.
could see it happening. But you know, as we talked before, like could that fit Dead by Daylight? Yes, 100%. I think it could. I think they could make it work, right? Even if it was just a survivor.
Mhm.
I think they could 100% make it work. But the question is, much like much like with the Tokyo Ghoul one, it's like, would the community think it does?
Right, but I think this is I'm glad you brought up Tokyo Ghoul because there's one thing that we haven't really mentioned about it. And with this chapter, uh a lot of people were confused as to why Ken was a killer because apparently in the manga his whole thing is he's got like a moral compass of like only killing other killers or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and a lot of people were like it makes no sense for this character to be a killer. He should have been a survivor. And Behavior said essentially in like the little press statement that they put out that they're not afraid to kind of this is a drastic oversimplification, but they're not afraid to kind of twist and almost flip characters like that.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, going back to Death Note as an easy example. Yeah, Light killed a lot of people. If on sheer body count alone, he'd probably be in like number one in terms of amount of people that a character has killed. He was killing like what, thousands of people an hour for years? I don't know. But like it just there's so many problems with making him a killer that it might make more sense for him to be a survivor in the game.
Well, I mean, even going back to apart from licenses, even OG killers like Plague and Twins, right?
Exactly, yeah, they're not really killers. Plague, if I remember right, didn't directly kill anyone. They're here
Yeah,
because they tried to sacrifice themselves.
no, she sacrificed quite a few people.
Oh, did she? Okay, she
Yeah,
did. Okay.
but I think more so Twins. I think Twins is the best example of this, or
Mhm.
Artist.
Oh yeah, Artist is a great example.
I've
Yeah.
actually been wanting to bring up Artist for the entire conversation of what fits into Dead by Daylight,
All right,
because
pop off then.
well, is Artist like okay? Apart from the fact that her arms are removed, like honestly speaking, is Artist really that aesthetically terrifying?
Mhm.
Like, and from a lore perspective, she's not really a killer. She's not like sadistic or anything. She's not really.
I mean,
She's not
oh, go
really
on.
like. She's not really scary in her lore. She's not really scary in her appearance. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that, like, again, this is coming from someone scared of crows. The
Mhm.
fucking bobbing movements of her head, but then again, that's also like the entity did that to her.
They're weird, they're unnerving, but let's be real here. Without the whole ink talons here, I think a good half of the community would take the artist out on a date if they had the chance.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, same with it's Skull Merchant's another one. This one gets brought up a lot too. Skull Merchant for kind of similar reasons.
Yep.
People are like, "Oh, she doesn't look scary enough." It's like, I mean, yeah, but like her lore makes up for it. If anything, Artist is the fish out of water on the killer side. The more I think about it, like in almost
You're
every
absolutely right
aspect.
about that. Yeah.
And that's no hate towards Artist. I mean, I love the character, but it's like when you really look into it, she kind of doesn't fit as a killer. Like it's again and I think that's in with the twins lore kind of making them not killers. It goes into the aspect of like as far as like what fits DBD, especially on the killer side. It's like honestly anything works, especially given enough time. Like no one questions that Twins is a killer unless you're like a lore head, like not even a lore head, but unless you like read the lore like me.
Mhm.
And you know that also like I think Trickster is the example of the opposite of this, right? Like Trickster aesthetically, like a lot of people, with the exception of the blood, um, often say he doesn't fit Dead by Daylight. But like if you read his
Mhm.
lore, no, he 100% fits Dead by Daylight. You know, like
Right.
someone mentioned in the chat a long time ago, Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, right? It's Patrick Bateman. right?
Yep.
Like it's that kind of horror. And again, it's Dead by Daylight. Like I feel like if we start putting these limiters on who and what can be put into the game, because don't get me wrong, I think there is a line. Again, I think like Teletubbies is probably that line, but like I'm trying to think of a franchise on top of my head that like, I mean, we mentioned Darth Vader, we mentioned BioShock a bit. Um, I mean, there's probably some other movies that are like horror, but not really. Like even like comedy horror movies, like fuck. And there was one recently I can't remember the name of, but like Smile, I think is a good one because that's actually a decently funny movie. If I'm honest with you, maybe it's just me being a weirdo, but like there are ways to make it work, and at the end of the day, as long as the gameplay's good, I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I really don't care that much.
Exactly, yeah, and that was a lot of people were talking once again, going back to that, I'm not seeing many people actively, like, hate on anime and DVD. A lot of people were saying, "I don't care about this character. This license means nothing to me, but they look fun, so I'm probably going to get them."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I feel like that is the most bottom line. I think the community will accept anything and anyone as long as it is a genuine good addition to the game. Yeah, let's say, let's go off the walls here. Let's say they add in Bob the Builder, right? Bob the Builder is our newest killer, and his power is he can board off loops. He can just completely. You want to talk about anti-loop? He quite literally nails pallets to the wall, and you don't know. You know how annoyed people would be and how angry people would be? Imagine Skull Merchant, but she was also a license that nobody wanted. That's the only time where I think there will be a genuine problem with a license that is long term. As long as it doesn't even have to be a great addition. Most people hated Pinhead. Most
Yeah,
people hated Pinhead playing against him. Honestly, I'm one of them because I always am more on the casual side when it comes to Survivor. I just like to go play, have fun with my friends, whatever I'm on Survivor, right? I did not enjoy Pinhead, but it was still an interesting addition to the game. So even people who really didn't want Pinhead in the game for various reasons, after a while, they were fine with it. He brought in some neat perks. He made the game maybe not a better place, but a different place, you know?
well, I mean,
And so people kind of grew to live with it, like you said earlier.
yeah, and like another thing is like the FNAF chapter. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people theorize about what the power is going to be or whatever. The FNAF chapter, I feel like is kind of the opposite, where the gameplay really isn't going to matter too much for how popular that's going to be for the game.
Right.
Right, because it's just such a massive franchise that, I mean, it just fits. And again, the argument of it's for kids is just a dumb argument in my opinion for why it doesn't fit. Like, and the thing is, like I was talking to somebody about the Tokyo Ghoul gameplay, where it's like, I don't really like dash killers. People know this. Ironically, I main a dash killer. People who've watched me play know why I enjoy Chucky, and it's not necessarily for the dash. But I suck at Billy. I suck at Blight. I suck at I kind of suck with the new character, but that's also PTB jank, I'm sure. But my point is, like, I'm not really the biggest fan of his gameplay either. But like, again, I'm not like over the moon mad about it that the character isn't for me. From one, it's not a license I wanted. Two, it's not a gameplay I really like. And then with like the FNAF chapter, what I was telling people is like, what I'm hoping is that they introduced a dash killer like this, because the FNAF chapter is going to be a much, I don't want to say simpler, because that makes it sound demeaning, but it's going to be not as high octane, if that makes any sense. Because Springtrap's,
what do you mean by that?
well, Springtrap's not going to be a dash killer. At least,
Hopefully,
God, I hope not. But yeah, but like Springtrap's not going to be a dash killer, right? So like the gameplay for Springtrap, in my mind, and again, we don't know anything, he's going to be a much more methodical. I have a feeling he's going to be a stealth killer of some kind.
I mean, he'd almost have to be.
Yeah, that's my
It
point.
just makes sense for the character.
But like that's a gameplay that a lot of the community doesn't like on either side. But I think in the case of like Springtrap, for example, that doesn't, the gameplay is going to be the afterthought in a way. right? It's not the part people are really going to care about until they're, a few months later. But with the Tokyo Ghoul chapter, I feel like we're seeing the opposite of that, where the licensing itself isn't the issue, or like the thing people actually care about. It's the gameplay.
Right. Yeah. I'd agree with that. I just
it's just, again, like the Tokyo Ghoul, like in Springtrap, but in particular Tokyo Ghoul, opens the door for so much. And like it's one of those things where like I have an old drill sergeant. I forget his name, but I think it was Drill Sergeant Crumb. I think it was his name. But he used to tell us this story about traditions, and what he would tell me is every year he would go to his mom's house for Thanksgiving, and they would cut the ham on both ends and put it on a plate. And after about 10 years of this, he asked his mom, he was like, why do you do that? And he said, well, because my mom did it. So then he asked his grandma, he was like, okay, why did you do that? And his grandma said, well, because my mom did it. So then he asks his great grandma, why did you do it? And her answer is because we didn't have a big enough plate to hold the ham.
Okay.
So the moral of that story is that they were throwing away ham because of a tradition that happened years ago that they didn't need to keep doing just to like appease some, I don't know, some rite of passage or something, right? Like, and bringing this back to Dead by Daylight a bit, my point with that is just because we have only like dealt with like 80 slasher horrors and like video game horror doesn't mean we can't branch it out. And until we get to a point to where we do start branching it out and letting that slippery slope happen, for lack of a better word, it's never going to change.
And yep, absolutely agree with you. Go on.
Yeah, and the game needs to change, and I don't even think necessarily fundamentally. But like from what it brings in and how it brings it in, I think it does need to start changing to survive. Because like we mentioned, like the homegrown community of like when the game first started. I'm gonna bring it up. Rest in peace, VHS. Part of the reason I enjoyed VHS as much as I did is because the community was very small.
Right.
However, that game died because the community was very small. Because again, it's just not sustainable. And with Dead by Daylight, it's like, okay, we stagnate, okay, like, and then we can't afford to pay the people who work here, so we got to start firing people, and then, people get upset about the firings, and then, like, until we start branching out to other avenues, it's just not going to happen.
And also, to loop in something you talked about, I think on Twitter the other day, I think that going into anime chapters with how, let's be frank here, wild and outlandish some of them are, it does open the, I guess, plausibility for way more varied and interesting concepts.
Yeah.
This first one with Ken was basically Wesker, but let's face it, that was probably intentional. People love Wesker's playstyle, even if they don't like the character. Especially nowadays, that now that he's not the only killer you're facing constantly, people love playing as and against Wesker. And so they probably, to try, I think the fact that Matthew Makote, I mean, this was like, what, 6 months out, said, yeah, people are going to bitch about this March chapter a lot. I think they were braced for a storm that didn't happen. And I think they wanted to make sure that this chapter, stuck the landing, so they copied some homework. And that's okay.
Yeah, and I know I was kind of bitching at people being reductive about it. But I do understand the comparisons to Wesker and Legion. But here, at the end of the day, the thing with that, and I mentioned this while I was playing him, the two most popular killers in the game, or the three most popular killers in the game, are Wesker, Legion, and Blight.
And would you look at who he keeps getting compared to?
Like, they literally mixed the two most popular killers in the game. Two of the most popular killers in the game. And Huntress. I didn't say Huntress, but... Well, even a Huntress you could argue because it's a ranged attack, technically.
Yep. I mean, it's very clear that formulaically, or that they kind of went with a formula with Ken to... And once again, I think that's just because they needed this to stick the landing. And obviously, it's a bit early. The PTB was yesterday. But I think that it is very likely that this chapter is going to stick the landing. So many people... the ones who are lucky enough to actually be able to play the PTP, cough, cough. Anyways, they love the killer. The killer is so much fun for them.
Yeah, and it also like brings into like the argument of like, again, because like when Springtrap comes out, I can almost promise you, if his power is what I think it is, he's going to be compared to Ghostface and Singularity. People are going to say he's a mix of Ghostface and Singularity.
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm just delusional, but I have a feeling he's going to be a stealth killer with cameras. Because
almost certainly, unless they go completely off the wall and give him entity tendrils for some reason, I think he has to be.
But that's the other thing. It's like also like Ken was also he's basically this was behavior, and this is something game companies do all the time, right? Ken was basically a concept they've had, because Ken's power was basically what Deathslinger's original power was supposed to be.
Right.
So like they were finally able to realize that.
And that's why they don't talk about scrapped content very often, because they don't know when it'll come back, when, it maybe down the line they get a license. Let's say they get a license, or they get a concept for a dude who, I don't know, puts things underneath survivors' pillows when they go to sleep, and it debuffs them when they go into the match. Okay, well, obviously they scrap that because... Excuse me, but then they get a license to the Tooth Fairy, and it's like,
the Tooth Fairy. There we go. Is that one crossing the line?
Not if it's the 2012 Dwayne The Rock Johnson movie.
But like it also brings like the power concept is also a very good point with that. It's like people could argue like, oh, well, the original killer should be for where they experiment. And it's like, well, they can't risk doing that with a lot of the original killers. Like, don't get me wrong, Unknown like is a very well-liked killer. But at the end of the day, if you want to be Huntress, Freddy, or Sadako, and Clown, at the end of the day, that's what the killer is. Like, if you really want to be reductive about it. So, like...
And it's the best killer they've put out in years.
Yeah, and again, yeah, that's the thing. It's like them, like, pulling from these other killers made a good killer. Because they were able to test all of that stuff. Like, and see how well people enjoyed it. It's like, what do people enjoy about Huntress? Well, people enjoy that there's the give and take of dodging. And then when playing her, they enjoyed, like, the skill expression of, like, having good aim and good predictions. Well, what do people enjoy about like Sadako? Well, being able to teleport to a TV and just get a hit off of it, and like again, or like, and then going to the TVs, they took the concept of like turning the TVs off, and made it so you can just get rid of the husks. And what's one of Sadako's problem points? Well, all of her teleports are like in the same spots; she can't move them. Unknown, while not having much control, he can kind of control where his husks are, right? Like, unless like you're like really good at Unknown, like I'm sure you are, and you can instantly command where the husks are going to land.
Yeah, it can be a bit unpredictable until you learn how to edge, but also, but I get what you're going for here, so keep going.
Yeah, my point is like took all of these concepts. We mentioned this before with Dracula, right? It's like, okay, well, they've never done a quadrupedal killer before. And we're gonna make him a wolf. Okay, let's test that with Xenomorph.
Exactly. Yeah, they build on stuff, and they told us that they'd been building. Once Dracula came out, they told us that they'd been building to Dracula for a very long time. Even Chucky, the third-person camera.
Yeah,
and that kind of stuff.
Even
they had the idea of what they wanted to do, but it was too much, so they kept working at it.
Yeah, Hellfire with the fire effects, because that was something that wasn't possible in the game before. Even like the bat form is basically spirit. The teleport is like, and I don't mind this. One killer we haven't really talked about at all during this entire thing.
Well, there's a couple, but
yeah. Well, I think the big one we didn't touch on, and one that got a lot of controversy, was Vecna.
Yeah, because
I don't have an argument.
I'm sorry, Archie. You're probably watching this. Not many people think about Vecna anymore. I'm sorry. That's probably a good thing.
Well,
That's probably a good thing for you. But
but
I feel like a lot of people don't really think about Vecna anymore because
but
people don't play him anymore.
yeah, but my point with that is like when Vecna first released, this was a big contentious point with him too. Is like
Oh,
D&D
absolutely.
doesn't fit Dead by Daylight, even though they're both acronyms that end with D, by the way. Um,
And start,
yeah,
but
and just said so. But like it's again like it comes down to this idea of what is horror, and it's like Google the definition of horror right now.
all right, yeah.
Genuinely, Google the definition of horror. I'm genuinely curious.
Define horror. Dictionary: horror.
Horror.
Noun: an intense feeling of fear, shock, or disgust. The children screamed in horror. 2. Informal: a bad or mischievous person, especially a child. That little horror Zach was around.
So, I mean, that's a pretty broad definition.
What do you
Like-
expect from a Google definition?
Well, no. My point is like that's a pretty broad definition, right? Like Vecna is again a necromancing skelly man. Like,
Oh, I thought you were about to call him a mischievous little scamp,
Well,
which
he's-
I would agree, but
I mean, yes, but my point is like he fits that definition. He's also evil. Like evil, like kind of goes into like the horror thing, right? Like that's where
absolutely.
that's where the kind of Darth Vader fits into that. And no one thinks they're the villain of their own story, but like he is the villain. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had enough arguments to say that the rebels are actually the bad guys when you think about it, but but still, like the point is like he's presented as the villain. It's like the reverse Breaking Bad situation, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone who
don't
get me started on how everyone watches that show wrong.
dude, I hated that show. I suffered through that show because I started it and I was going to finish it, but I hated Breaking Bad. I don't know if that's a hot take. That was just miserable for me to watch.
Why was it miserable for you? Like it is a hot take.
I don't know. It was just that was a tough show for me to watch. I think it's because I'd heard so much about the show from the people who had like misunderstood the show. And I was expecting like some kind of like, I guess, crime thing. And I was watching like a family fall apart in real time. It's like, okay, thanks. If I wanted to watch a relationship fall apart in real time, I'd download Tinder. Thanks, guys. Like.
Again, like that's an example of like people watching something wrong. And I know like that's not really quote possible. It's kind of possible sometimes.
Misunderstanding the medium is possible. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, of course he's the villain. Like I mentioned this earlier with Carrie. Carrie's another good example of this, and this is one I think most people understood. It's like she's the bad guy. Like, yeah, she like a bunch of bad stuff happens to her, and there's other like quote villains in the movie, but at the end of the day, she kills everybody. Everyone, even the people who weren't involved.
Yeah.
Like, is it justified? That's an ethical conversation. But the point is, she is still the villain of that movie. It's Breaking Bad x DBD. Would Breaking Bad fit Dead by Daylight? Would Walter White fit right at home?
I don't know. He's kind of an evil person. He does kill people. He has put a few people under, and it was kind of a brutal way that he did it. I mean, with like what, a piece of ceramic for one of them, like.
Oh yeah, was it the plate?
Maybe.
Yeah, the plate for Crazy Eight. Yeah, he ran over two people with a car. He had 9.
I mean, he definitely. I think it's all in terms of presentation, and I think this is another question too. Once again, tying back to Death Note, would it make more sense for them in like a moral standpoint to be the survivor, to be the people who are, for lack of a better term, being eternally punished? That kind of thing.
Well, and that's another.
Would it make more sense for him to be a survivor? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing with it too, like lore wise as well. It's like, I mean, there's always there's been the ongoing theory for years about if a Pyramid Head wasn't brought in by the entity, but rather to punish the entity. Like breaks. Right. That's why it breaks all the rules. Same with Myers. Like Myers is just so evil. he breaks the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So the question becomes then it's like lore wise, literally the entity like artist is a good example of this, shaping someone to be a killer.
Mm-hmm.
Like by basically all definitions, and maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. There's something I missed in her lore, but like realistically speaking, artist makes so much more sense as a survivor, and Jonah kind of makes more sense as the killer. One line. I mentioned this in the Asimov's podcast. If they added one line to Jonah's story, he would have been fine and no one would have hated him as much.
And what line is that? Let's hear it.
The one line is he was following orders.
Oh, no.
That is the one line they could have added that would have saved Jonah. I'm just saying. I know that's a contentious line, but at the very least, especially as someone who is an ex-soldier, that line means more than I think people realize it does. But regardless of that, but like it's again, it's like Breaking Bad being in Dead by Daylight. I think it's like one of the more ridiculous ones. But it's like, could I see them making it work? Yeah. Do I think they could do it?
Oh, go on.
I was gonna say, do I think they could do it right now? No. I think it's the other thing with it. Like going back to the frog in the pot analogy, it's like I don't want them to go off the wall like at once, but like Tokyo Ghoul is a good
stepping stone.
It's a good stepping stone. like it's horror enough, gory enough, gruesome enough to work on its own, but also open the door for other anime and other media to be added to the game. Even like Dracula, like Castlevania is like, it's horror by aesthetics, honestly speaking. Outside of the anime, obviously, but like the games are kind of just horror by aesthetics. Like you're not playing Castlevania like shit getting in your shoes, you know, like. Like you're whipping vampires and like witches and wraiths all the time, right?
If anything, you're the slasher in those.
Yeah, like but again, like Dracula kind of works though because vampires themselves are associated with horror.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that's another reason why Castlevania was so successful. People just wanted Dracula, and we got Dracula. Yeah, he might not be the stereotypical, you know, like the one they were thinking of like the universal monster, but we still got a Dracula. We got a vampire, and even if he's not a, you know, even if he doesn't like suck blood for his power, he's still Dracula, and he still does the other things that vampires do, like turn into bats, you know, that kind of stuff.
It again, like it's that line I feel like is being moved, and that's fine. I feel like they're doing it they're doing it in such a way where I don't think it's an issue, and it's not going to become one. Like unless like they really jump the shark, right? Like if if the chapter after FNAF is like, I don't know, we keep saying it, but if the chapter after FNAF is like Teletubbies, like, yeah, even I might start raising an eyebrow, you know, like, okay, this probably should be the game. But if let's say somehow the game lasts for like 20 years, if in 20 years they add Teletubbies, you know, maybe the game has progressed to a point to where that's possible. Like, honestly, like this game is not the same game that released in 2016.
Nope, and it won't be the same year. It won't be the same game in 2030, I guarantee you. You want to talk about Fortniteification? Let's come back in 5 years, see how it goes. See where we're at.
Like, this has happened with a lot of other games, even like Rainbow Six Siege. It's not the same game it was 5 years ago.
Nope, it is certainly not. I feel like that's just natural for games to grow and evolve throughout time and become something totally different than the original. And that's okay, you know. I feel like, honestly, that's part of the fun of games, you know, is seeing, as long as it's moving in a similar or parallel direction, I guess, I think it's okay, you know, like, Dead by Daylight's a totally different game, but at the end of the day, the game still plays similarly enough. Don't get me wrong. There's no, Well, actually, I can't say there's no double pallet loops anymore because there are. But there's no infinite win. Actually, wait, there are.
There's a couple. Breakable walls fix them, but yeah, there's a couple.
There's a couple. Yeah, the point is, it's still if the details are different, but the broad strokes are still similar enough that it's recognizable and fun still for the people that enjoyed the original. For the most part,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the people that don't enjoy DBD now from the original were either people that just played it as like a stealth game or people that burned themselves out of it because they enjoyed it too much.
Well, I mean, there's also the argument of like the people who like joined at the beginning. Like, I think Warframe is a good example of this too. It's like that game is not the game that launched when that game launched.
Mm-hmm.
And it's managed to keep most of its player base because it sticks to that line, but also the player base understands and wants the game to change. Dead by Daylight is weird because like people talk about they want the game to change all the time. And I know licenses are like a little different and like what fits in the game is a little different from like gameplay changes. But like at the same time, it feels like people also want it to say the same. And this is the problem because I've listened to like developer podcasts from game devs. This is a problem they always run into when like they're trying to update their games.
Right. What's a good change but isn't too much? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. They constantly have to straddle this line of keeping their current players happy by keeping things the same, but also making their current players happy by changing things up. And sometimes they sometimes they fuck up, sometimes they don't. But like I'm trying to think of like other good examples, but like again, Dead by Daylight is just so unique in the gaming space. It's a free to play live service. It's not free to play. It's an asymmetrical PvP game that doesn't have a ranked mode. It's like it has a perk system unlike any other game where it's like vital to how the game works. The closest thing to it is like the item system in League of Legends. It has licenses that you not only buy skins of, but literally play as. Like there's not too many other games like it.
There's some games that have one or two of those aspects at most, but nothing that has all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I really can't think of anything else that's honestly even three of those.
I mean, even like a PvP horror game, other than the ones that have failed, like there's not really anything like that.
A PvP horror game that lasts longer than 2 years.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Like there's Outlast Trials, right? But that's PvE. And there was didn't Poppy Playtime have I don't know if that was PvP.
I don't know.
I couldn't tell you. I feel bad for not knowing, but yeah, like Poppy Playtime had one. I mean, there's asymmetrical games like the Dragon Ball Z Dead by Daylight clone that apparently is actually still kicking. Apparently,
the what?
There's a Dragon Ball Z asymmetrical game.
I thought that was just a fighting game. I didn't know that they had an asym.
Yeah,
wow.
There's an asym. Yeah, you didn't know this?
If I did not remember it for long.
Yeah, it's still kicking from what I understand. So
wow.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing with like we mentioned it earlier with like popularity of things. It's like I know this is a common thing to say, but we don't realize how much of a bubble we're in until we get out of the bubble. Like
once again, I talked to those people and they had the negative reaction to DBD. I've always kind of had a positive like image of it, but I was like, huh? And that made me reflect a lot.
Well, like again, Dead by Daylight is a really popular game. However, it's also not as popular as I think we all think it is. Like outside of the Dead by Daylight sphere, I probably can't really mention this game to anyone, not because of the stigma behind it, because they don't know what the game is. Like, yeah, it's not like League of Legends, and even League of Legends, the most popular video game on the planet. There are still people who don't know what League is. Most people who know League know it from Arcane now.
And I envy them. As somebody who's never played League, I envy them.
And like same with Warframe, and like Warframe is another one. Like I know a lot of people who've never heard of Warframe, and it's a really popular game. Like extremely popular. Or even like Valorant or I'm trying to think of other ones. there's even Apex. I know people who've never heard of Apex.
Yep.
It's or Deep Rock Galactic. I bring up Deep Rock Galactic all the time, and I get comments on people not knowing what that game is.
Which is surprising, because even just a few years ago, it felt like it was everywhere, even as someone who didn't play it at the time. He's only picked it up in the last year or so and played it for maybe like 5 hours. It's still like,
yeah, like,
it's still pretty.
I never heard of it till like 2 years ago. And I'm someone in the gaming sphere. Right? Like, I mean, we could rant about what casual versus like hardcore means, but like, I'm someone who looks up gaming news. I'm someone who like tries to pay attention to other games and what's going on in the industry. I didn't hear about Deep Rock Galactic until 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that'll happen.
Like, again, it's just like this game is not as popular as I think people lit on. Not to say it's like not popular at all. Obviously it is, but like, outside of the sphere it's in, it's such a unique game, and there are so many people who only play Dead by Daylight.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we have so many miserable people, is because they don't know when to take a break. I mean, honestly, you want to start enjoying DBD again, that's the number one thing. Play something else every once in a while. I hate to say it, go play Civ 6.
I mean, this will be out hopefully by the time he's live, but like Chucky's buffs, I'm not touching Chucky until the buffs go live.
Absolutely,
like,
yeah.
So like I'm taking a break from my main. I mean, I've been taking a couple breaks here and there from the game, a week off here, a week off there. Just to let my brain reset.
Yeah.
This happened with me with League, which I played for like 5 years straight. Or Rainbow Six Siege. I mean, I basically don't play Rainbow Six Siege anymore.
No.
But that was like my main game for 5 years. And I didn't stop playing it because, they added a collab with Rick and Morty or anything. No, I just moved on to other stuff because I burned myself out on the game.
Absolutely, yeah.
And especially, I wasn't even making content. I was literally just playing the game. And no shame to anyone who does that. I'm just saying, it's just the same thing with Dead by Daylight. It's like, honestly speaking, when I first started playing this game, I spent like 300 hours in like 2 weeks.
Yes, so that can happen to you when you start DBD. I don't know about 300 hours in 2 weeks. But
I'm probably exaggerating, but like
I know.
But like that was back,
a lot of time.
That was back when I was working like 80-hour weeks at the grocery store during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like I would come home and I would just load up Dead by Daylight and just play for like hours at a time until I had to go back to work or get some sleep. And after a while, and like honestly speaking, if I did not make content on this game, would I still play Dead by Daylight? Yes, 100% I would. I still love this game, but I would not play it nearly as much as I currently do, and I don't even play as much as people think I do. I play like 9 to 10 hours a week, which, granted, I know some people think that's not a lot. I hate to tell you guys, that's actually a lot of time. 10 hours a week in a game is actually quite a lot of fucking time.
I know what you're talking about, though. Right now, in the last 2 weeks, I've got 8.8 hours in DBD in the past 2 weeks on Steam, so I get it, yeah. Especially as a content creator, you kind of can't, unless you are just a streamer. If you do YouTube, I mean, even if it's just like taking time to cut stuff out of your VODs and upload them to YouTube, that's still time off that's technically centered around the game that you can't spend in game.
Yeah, even this. I mean, some of these have been 8 hours.
I wonder which ones.
So it's like eight, like that's 8 hours away from the game, but that's not only just for my YouTube thing, editing it and exporting it, which also takes time. And listen, I know technically I could do other stuff while I was doing all that. I just don't like to, just in case. But like it's time away from the game, which is fine, I feel. But like even like my simpler videos, like my Chucky videos, right? Like those don't take that long to make, even when I edit some stuff in them. They take maybe an hour or two. That's not counting like downloading the footage and stuff. But like adding in little edits here, little edits there, adding in the in screen, adjusting the audio, adding the music. It takes an hour or two. Finding the good games that I need to show the point I'm making, things like that. Recording the audio, all that takes like a couple hours. Making the thumbnail takes 30, 40 minutes for me because I make pretty simple thumbnails. Some would say just bad thumbnails, regardless. But like again, that's time away from the game, and like. Because I'm talking about the game so much, because I'm making content on the game, because I'm playing the game on stream, in my off time, I don't want to play the game. It's not because I don't enjoy it. It's because I just can't. like
absolutely, yeah. There's very rarely a time where I'll sit there and I'll edit for like 6 hours straight, and then I'll be like, you know what? I need to play Dead by Daylight. I'm gonna get up and do something else. Just if for nothing else, then I just don't want to be sitting at a computer any longer, you know? Like, okay, all right, 8 hours of this. I'm going to go, like, throw a ball or something.
Throw a ball? What are you, in prison?
You know, exactly, though. You got to do some other things sometimes.
I'm just sitting there thinking of you, like, gathering toilet paper and making a prison ball. Do you know what a prison ball is?
That's just where I assume from the context, you just wrap up a bunch of toilet paper into a ball.
You just wrap up a bunch of toilet paper, get it wet, cover it up, let it dry, and now you got a ball. It's how you entertain yourself in jail, all right? Listen.
I always wondered how they always seem to have a ball. That would make sense.
Yeah, that's it. I was in I don't talk about this much, but I was in institutionalized is the wrong word. I was in a mental health facility when I was a teenager. Nothing bad. It wasn't like straight vests or anything, but yeah, we weren't allowed to have anything in that place. So
I've heard about it.
Yeah, you had to find ways to occupy yourself. You weren't allowed to have your shoelaces, which I get.
Nope.
Yeah, you weren't allowed to wear your shoes. They kept your shoes from you. Yeah, socks.
Grippy socks.
Grippy socks. Yeah, the grippy socks. I still got my pair. Grippy socks. Man, that's. But you know, like again, this game. To kind of wrap this all up, though, like this game needs to evolve. Like, and not necessarily the gameplay. Like the gameplay does too, but.
Please, more verticality. Please bring back rock climbing. Please, please, please.
But like. From the licensing and like what fits in the game perspective, even if it's just skins, like even like I think a collab we mentioned the Rainbow Six collab, but a collab we didn't mention was like the Slipknot collab. Like, does that really fit Dead by Daylight?
I don't know. I don't pay much attention to Slipknot, but I know there are like horror themed artists out there. So
yeah,
like,
but it's like
it wouldn't surprise me if they kind of are.
Yeah, it's horror theme. Like, and that's a weird thing to say, but like I guess it's kind of horror themed music. I wouldn't really describe it as that, but it's not me shitting on. I love Slipknot, by the way. I'm just saying. Like, yeah, it's like does that fit? And that was just skins. I mean, like fucking they gave Tori. The cult the indoctrinized cult member a Slipknot shirt. Like, would she be a fan of Slipknot music? Maybe. I don't fucking know, but like
she always struck me more as a Gregorian chant kind of gal. But, you know.
I play like a lot of Cult of the Lamb. I'll just get you with the fucking band all the time. Speaking of Cult of the Lamb, by the way, you were a member in my cult. Yeah, you died of lethargy, so that was fun.
Oh, gotta love that.
Yeah. You wanted to eat a bowl of poop. That was your choice.
Yeah, I've done dumber things in my life.
I love that game so much. I mean,
it's got some good music. I listened to it for a video. I've used a couple before.
Yeah, I might actually start doing that. Like the background music is actually really good. But like even that's something they haven't really touched on, right? Like I mean, they touched on it a little bit, like Tori, obviously, with the cult aspect, right? And the other closest we've gotten is like Dredge and Plague. Plague was more okay. This is semantics of definition based on. Okay, I'm gonna Twitter brain this real quick. This is semantics of the definition of a word based on ethical standings of taboo in a cultural sense. Plague was more religion than cult. Okay. You understand why I said what I said now? Okay.
Yes. I had a feeling you were going there.
but Tari's was definitely, like, they were definitely pulling more into the cultish aspects of it, and Dredge was like full on cult. Even though the argument could be made if in the world of Dead by Daylight that it's actually happening, then the question becomes, is it then actually not a cult or a religion? Mm-hmm. Is it just actually just fact that whatever? It's a weird thing when you start naming cults, and then it's like, well, actually the cult is like everything the cult believes is real. Well, then it's not a cult. Then it's just okay. You know what? Anyways, my point is, like, they haven't really done too much on the cultish side of things on the killer side. They've alluded to it, right, with Dredge and Plague to a degree, but like they haven't like really gone into it. So like there's definitely like things like that they could still do. And even from like my dream killer, I've said this before, is a pyromaniac. That is the only, like, I don't license it wise. I don't really have a license I want anymore. All my licenses are in the game. Chucky and Xenomorph were the ones I wanted. I got them both at the same time, pretty much. I'm just lucky like that. The only other killer I want is a pyromaniac killer. Every time I bring this up, though, the first response, and I know people are like half joking with this, is Pyro from TF2. And, you know, like, if you just said that, it's like, well, no, that doesn't make sense. TF2 is a pretty, like, funny game. It's not very, like, super serious. But when, again, it's one of those ones where, like, when you sit down and start to think about it, though, they can...
I mean, it could work. I mean, I wouldn't want to play a game as killer in Pyrovision, but, you know, it could definitely work.
That could be.
It's just, you know, once again, kind of like the Breaking Bad thing. Maybe not right now. You know, you want Breaking Bad in. Let's get a couple more midlife crises in the game before we start doing stuff like that. You know, you want Pyro in the game. Okay, let's get a couple more, maybe more FPS mercenary types in the game before we go Pyro.
Yeah, well, we were gonna get that with Clown. Remember, he was supposed to be a World War I guy who threw grenades,
like a grenadier. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that was where Unknown's ability came from, the more I think about it.
Maybe. It definitely could be similar, or like maybe some part of the original, like, ancestor, so to speak, of the power design.
Yeah. Again, like there's a lot of ones of those, and like licensing wise, like, again, Trickster is a good example of, like, Trickster works in the game. So, like, I don't think we need Patrick Bateman. Not because the license doesn't work. I think the license works just fine. I just think it's filling... It's kind of the thing that happened with Hillbilly and Bubba.
Right.
Right? It's like you added this character because you didn't think or want to get the other character. So you added this like homage to them. So, like, it feels like Patrick Bateman would fit in the game, but, like, he'd be invading a space, even if his power was different.
Right.
It's, again, Sadako and Spirit are very similar in this sense. When Jason gets added, depends on how they do Jason, but, like, Jason and Trapper, isn't Wraith based on the Grim Reaper or something? Wraith's, like, the weird odd man out of the original three.
I think he was based off of Predator, no?
It might have been Predator. Yeah. Well, that's another one. Like, they add Predator. It's like, okay, well, he's just Wraith. Like, he's just Wraith mixed with Skull Merchant, probably. Like, and again, it just comes down to, like, the community's willingness, I think, is admirable for a lot of the licenses they're trying to get. But the Tokyo Ghoul one proves to me that they are willing to take that plunge into areas that they didn't think they could before. And that's...
Well, I mean, to be fair, they've been working at this anime and DBD thing for years.
Right.
Now.
Yeah, Attack on Titan was probably the test, and then those skins probably sold gangbusters.
I mean, yeah, I saw them everywhere for a while. I was surprised to see them.
Really?
You know, because this was still at the time where I didn't realize that anime was mainstream now. I always saw it still more as a niche. Honestly, if we're being honest, kind of weird interest. Kind of how it was when I like in the 2010s. Early 2010s. It was something that wasn't very common. But then I load up DBD and it's like AOT skins everywhere for a year. It's like
I still run my Zarina one. Do you want my anime hot take real quick?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
I still don't understand why anime itself is a genre.
Okay, go on.
That's the hot take. I don't understand why anime is a genre. Not that it shouldn't.
Why we differentiate media because of where it comes from?
Yes.
Interesting. That you know what? You're gonna have a lot of fun with the comments if you weren't already with that one.
I'm just saying, I legitimately do not understand why anime has to be classified different from any other form of animation.
I
not to say I'm not saying it shouldn't exist. I'm not saying I don't enjoy anime. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying I don't understand why it has to be classified as something different. And if anything, and maybe this one's probably what I'm about to say might actually piss off the anime community. Mm-hmm. I think because we've classified it as something different, that's why it has the stigma around it.
I can see the reasoning there.
Because
I can see that.
Like, again,
as someone who was on the outside and definitely held that stigma for a while, even if not as strongly as some others, like I could see that, yeah.
Because again, it's like there's slice of life anime, there's horror anime, there's I almost said Shinto. There's shonen anime. Like there's different genres within anime. It's like an umbrella term. And there's still also the argument of like, is Avatar anime?
Like you want free engagement? Is Castlevania an anime?
Is that an argument? I thought it was like, wasn't it produced in Japan?
Oh, dude, that was a massive argument. Okay, to give you the summary, and I'm sorry for unleashing the Kraken. Apparently, to give you the summary, I was under the impression that yes, it is an anime because it's based around a Japanese IP that was created in the style of traditional animes, but technically the people who drew it were American.
Okay.
So technically it's not really an anime from my understanding. It's been a long time. I don't really remember it. And even though everywhere classifies it, Netflix, Google, etc., everywhere I looked classified it as an anime, I had a lot of people and I mean a lot. I mean, that was genuinely 80% of my comments on the anime and DBD video were about Castlevania technically not being an anime.
It's yeah. Again, it's just like the thing is, I don't even understand the point of the argument. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand the point of the argument. It's like, okay, it's an anime. It's not an anime. Who cares? Is it good?
Which, I've watched the show since then because I haven't, I made that video and I was a complete stranger to Castlevania as a franchise. I'd heard of the show, I'd heard of the games, but I'd never played either of them. And while I still haven't beaten any of the games, I've played a bit of Mirror of Fate and I watched the show and the show was really good. I liked it. That was the main thing I'd always heard about the show is that it was really well written. And so I went into it with pretty high standards. And for the most part, it met all my standards and expectations. There were a couple times where things were unintentionally really funny and kind of threw me out of the show for a minute just because of unintentional humor, but it was still overall a good show.
Yeah, and again, like I don't know. This is an argument I've had for years on why we even classify anime as anime, not just animation. Because I just genuinely don't understand what it accomplishes. Like,
I couldn't tell you either.
Like, by definition, if a Japanese studio made, let's say, Gravity Falls, is Gravity Falls now an anime? Like, is it just a slice of life mystery anime? Because I
guess it could be, yeah.
Like, I don't know, and like, there's other there's isn't Akira technically German? Am I wrong on that? It's not
I
Akira. It's not
couldn't tell you.
Akira. No, no. I think Akira is actually Japanese. There's one like very popular anime. I can't remember the name of it. That is German. It was made in Germany, and there has been an
I've
art.
definitely heard something about that.
Yeah,
It's ringing a bell now, but I couldn't tell you the name.
yeah. Like, and it's caused a lot of controversy because of that. Because it's like, well, it's not anime because it wasn't made in Japan. And it's like, yeah, but
Hmm.
it's got the style. It's got like all the tropes. Like, it's yeah. Again, like it's a fleeting argument, and that's the thing when I was bringing up back to Dead by Daylight with this is, people complain like, oh, anime doesn't belong in Dead by Daylight. Okay, well, so does that mean like no animated characters belong in Dead by Daylight? Like at all?
Hmm.
Like no, like if there was like a I'm trying to think of an example. Is there like a horror like cartoon
Uh,
other
I've
than
got an answer. You're not gonna like it.
what's
It's Scooby Doo.
oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. Again, like Scooby Doo. No, yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, like Scooby Doo. Like just because Scooby Doo's animated, does that mean like it shouldn't come to the game? Or is the problem just because it's anime? And it's like, okay, so why are we drawing that line there? Again, like it just makes no sense to me.
Hmm.
Because like if I go on Twitter right now and I ask people, should Scooby Doo come to Dead by Daylight? I can almost promise you, if it got engagement, that
That's a big if.
yeah. My Twitter's weird. Sometimes I'll post something and like it'll get like 2 likes, and then like what happened yesterday will happen where like I make a dumb meme and it gets like, fucking 4,000 likes.
Like what, the rocket one?
No, oh yeah, like the rocket one or the Ken enough thing. Or, oh my god! Or the fucking the think pieces I do every now and again. Sometimes that like no one cares, and then other times somehow it blows up, and I don't know why. I don't know what I do any differently.
I think that's just Twitter being Twitter, though.
Yeah, it's just fair enough. But like again, like if I asked a bunch of people, like, should Scooby Doo come to Dead by Daylight, I can promise you 9 out of 10 people would say yes. Now, how is a different thing. I'm sure people have their differing perspectives on it. But
Hmm.
if I asked Tokyo Ghoul even like a year ago, people would say no, or at least most people would probably say no. But like again, the question then is like, what is the difference? If anything, Tokyo Ghoul is probably more horror than Scooby Doo is.
I could see that. Once again, not very familiar, but from everything that I've heard and has been explained to me, I would kind of agree. Because Scooby Doo is primarily a mystery, and Tokyo Ghoul is, if you had to call it anything other than horror, I guess torture porn. But even then, like,
Saw.
that kind of, is that not horror too?
Well, I mean, because I've heard people talk about God, what is the movie? Oh my God, it came out after Saw. It basically is just torture porn. It's oh my God,
Not Terrifier, right?
no. Even though some people argue that one is too.
Hmm.
Oh my God, what the fuck is the movie? It's not Postal. It's Hostel. That's the one. Hostel. Thank you, chat.
I've
Hostel.
got no clue.
Yeah, it's basically the plot synopsis. A bunch of guys go to, I forget the country, but they go to a country for like vacation and drink a bunch,
Hmm.
and they basically get kidnapped and are now in like a building or in like a place where people pay to torture people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that whole movie, like a lot of people argue it's not that great of a movie, but the reason like it was really popular, and the argument is just because it was torture porn.
Yeah.
Similar to the arguments for Saw. Even
Okay.
even though I'm gonna let you guys know a secret, the reason people like Saw is because it's a soap opera. Okay, it's the greatest soap opera of all time. Can't convince me otherwise. Um, but yeah, like it leads into that. Like even Saw, like I feel like again I wasn't around and I can't really like it's hard to go back and check, but like I have a feeling people probably had a problem with Saw coming to the game.
I think if I remember right, the problems with Saw, because I was loosely following the game around there. A lot of people were confused as to why Amanda was chosen.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, why Amanda and why Tap? People didn't complain about Tap too much, but they were like, why not Jigsaw himself?
Oh, hang on. Chat wants me to do something. Hang on. Killing is distasteful to me. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Talbot Bell, for that amazing line read. I will never get over that fucking scene. But I mean, maybe, but like even then, it's like I think that's another problem with a lot of licenses. Because again, like you mentioned earlier with the Tokyo Ghoul one, it's like people were surprised at who the killer was, not just that it was Tokyo Ghoul.
Mm-hmm.
And same with with Nightmare on Elm Street, people were confused that it was the 2010 Freddy, even though at the time I think 2010 Freddy was the only option, not just from a licensing perspective, but I don't think Robert Englund at the time would have fit.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays,
and they certainly wouldn't have been able to afford getting Robert Englund to reprise the character.
yeah, nowadays, yeah, probably. Same thing with Chucky. Like, even if they could make Chucky function back then, I honestly don't think he would have fit back then.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing. Times change. Like we've been saying this entire time. It's like as the game progresses, what we allow and what we think fits also changes. And it only happens if we like. And I'm saying allow makes it sound gatekeepy, but like you get what I mean. Like it only happens by like what we do come into the game and what we allow to quote fit. And I think for the most part, like I can't name a character in the game that looks that out of place.
Mm-hmm.
Like again,
like obviously Trickster is the one to go to. If there's anyone, it's probably him. But even then, they at least tried, I guess. I've softened up to Trickster's design a little bit over time. I'd still kind of point to him like as the major turning point of the visuals of the game, and like going a little bit more off the rails, because that was also around the time that we got like Bunny Fang, if I remember right, like you mentioned earlier, and Mr. Puddles or Mr. Cuddles or whatever his name was, and a couple other. It was around that time where they started changing it, I think.
yeah, and even like recently again with like the Slipknot collab, not the collab itself, but like some of the survivors who got this, especially Tori.
Yeah.
Tori. Okay, all right. This one might be controversial. I know me and you both hate her, but I will say Sable getting the Slipknot skin makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Same with like Jeff, that makes sense. And
yeah,
I could see Dwight getting pressured into going to a concert. For a decent amount of the roster, it makes sense. But like Tori and Vittorio.
Oh wait, Vittorio got one too. I forgot.
Like, there's some of them where it's like
that makes even less sense than her.
Well, I'm pretty sure with Vittorio, part of his lore is he just kind of wears whatever he can find to wear in the realm.
He just found a
like
Slipknot
maybe
shirt.
It could make sense to him, but like,
I mean, Vittorio's also another good example of this with a lot of his skins. Because a lot of, ironically, he gets a lot of funny skins.
He does, yeah. He also got a shirtless skin on launch.
Yeah, that's true. But like the Jester skin he got, like you could argue it's in lore, but like not even the Jester skin necessarily. He also got the remember how instead of giving us like old school clothing, they gave us like the sweater?
Yeah.
That was like, oh well, it's a modern day sweater, but it looks like old school clothing. Okay, all right, behavior. I don't. You know what? Fine, whatever. But
it's close enough, I guess.
But it's like even like I'm trying to think of like a more recent example. They've been pretty good with like skin choices recently, with the exception of Claudette not getting an. I'm not gonna let you live this one down, behavior. Claudette literally has a perk called Botany Knowledge, and you didn't give her a perk or a skin for the D&D collab. She is literally a modern day alchemist, and you know what? I'm not gonna. I'm glad Gabe got one, but And I know normally I'd be mad if Claudette got a skin because she gets a bunch, but she literally fits the theme.
It's a rare time where she fits, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, it's so strange when that happens. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But there's also the argument to be made, like leaning into the joke too much. Like League of Legends, Star Guardian Urgot, I think, is a good example of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like years, this was a joked about skin. For years, people joked about Star Guardian Urgot, and they finally fucking did it. They finally did it. It took years, and they led into the joke. But again, it's also a question of like how far is too far. And again, like I wouldn't mind the arguments of like this killer or this chapter doesn't fit into Dead by Daylight if the same energy was also held to the skins. Because like we're arguing about like who should have these skins, which skins fit the characters. But for me, I think it more comes down to, does this skin fit the game? Like I said, the bunny Fong skin is a good one. Almost all of Gabe's skins are good ones. Because, and again, there's not enough sci-fi in this game, I swear. Just make them skins, behavior. I want a robot trapper, please. But I think, again, I think Dead by Daylight is finally starting to shed that stigma from the community and go more ham on a lot of it. And
yes.
I was going to say, and again, I just think it's a good thing.
I agree. I think also something that kind of has been rattling around in the back of my mind for the past couple of minutes, and I couldn't remember exactly what it was I believe there was a time where, and it was around the time that Trickster and all the other changes started happening, but I don't know if you'll remember this. Maybe this was before your time, but there was a time where Dead by Daylight, there was a news article written about Dead by Daylight that called it a digital fashion show. And I kind of can't help but wonder if behavior really took that in, and took it to heart and made it a part of them. Because, like they're definitely getting experimental out there.
I mean,
just like a normal high fashion. I mean, let's talk about that Fang skin. That Fang skin that I'm talking about, right?
Maybe there's a lot of them.
To be fair, there are a lot of that Fang skins, but the one that I'm talking about in this specific moment is the newest one. Maybe the newest one. She gets one so often it might not be the newest anymore, but it was the artist collection, I think it was, where they just let their artists go crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even and not to get too deep into it because the arguments for this one is so stupid. The most recent Rift.
No, I actually really do not like this Rift. It's probably gonna be the first Rift in a very long time that I skip.
Right, but the question becomes like, does it fit the theme of Dead by Daylight? And I say it does, 100%.
Oh, it does. Yeah, that's not why I'm not getting it.
Yeah.
It's just quite simply there is one charm in it that really put me off, and that is the crow and bondage. I'm like, okay, that's a bit much.
Okay, fair enough.
It is quite literally that single charm where I'm like, no. I was fine with everything else. Even if I didn't really like it, I found it humorous. There were some other charms in there that were quite humorous. I'm sure you can guess which ones are kind of funny. It's like, that's kind of silly. But the crow and bondage, I'm like, yeah, that's a bit weird. No, maybe this is a moment of friend too woke, but animals and bondage is just and not a fan.
but again, like the idea of like what fits cosmetically wise, like I like it seems like the argument. Like I said, I just feel like that argument doesn't stem up enough.
Mm-hmm.
And
because people will say if it's a skin, just don't buy it if you don't like it,
Mhm.
and they don't really consider the fact that like you still see a skin even if you don't buy it. You can't
Mhm.
turn off skins. To use kind of like I guess a somewhat related analogy, like when I first started playing the game, I was playing on console, right? And I was playing quite literally in the living room in like my house, and I'm in a pretty religious house, and there were some characters that like just because of the base design, for one reason or another, I just had to leave, if I played against that character and my family was home because they take problem with it for one reason or another, and there were some characters, some skins, I just had to leave if that's what the killer was, or I'd have to like hard stealth it out, which is a very, very niche scenario. That's not really gonna pop up for 99% of the population, but it's still a problem for that like 0.1% who are in a similar situation to I was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my many problems with Sable and a lot of her cosmetics, but we'll talk about that another time.
But it also like again it comes into like it also comes into this idea of like I don't know how to word this. It's like you like I guess the argument against it is that like with the chapters that's like the face of the game and the skins really aren't.
Hmm.
The skins are more like
Yeah.
in it but not like the game. Like if someone like is looking up Dead by Daylight right now, they're gonna see Tokyo Ghoul is in it, and that's gonna shape their impression. I think what people
Hmm.
weren't expecting is that that's now going to lead to more people joining the game. I think is the problem with that one, but again, I think it's really really what it comes down to. Like I think basically anything can fit in this game if they do it right. I can't again.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
even as much as me and you hate Sable, like do I think
It's not an argument that she doesn't fit in the
yeah
game,
yeah like I think she
and
fits just fine. I don't
hmm
think she looks out of place at all. Even Vittorio. My problem with Vittorio is that he doesn't fit his character, not that he doesn't fit the game.
for both of them, it's not the idea; it's the execution.
Yeah, and the same thing with like Knight or art like artists. Like I mentioned a lot earlier, it's like artist. I don't think
Hmm.
like fits as a killer realistic. Like when you really like break it down. But at the same time, because her gameplay makes up for it, I'm fine with it.
And not only that, artist is kind of a special case because entity involvement.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big factor as well. I think, and like if a character gets accepted or not is how well can they tie the entity and for like a license, for example, how well can the entity tie into it? How could it work? You got
Mm-hmm.
to be able to tie it in somehow. If you can tie it in well, I think that you can get away with it. As is kind of a like with Vecna and the mark of the entity suppressing his power a bit,
Mm-hmm.
so it's reasonable that he's a killer. It's not just snap finger, all survivors die,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Or again with like
I think that's
Pyramid Head and
look,
Myers breaking the rules and stuff like that.
exactly, yeah. If they can tie it in, not that those two really had issues with being accepted,
Mm-hmm.
but if they can tie it in well enough, I think they can get away with so much more. And tying in the entity is kind of a cheat code. Once again, Ghostface. It doesn't. I wouldn't say that Ghostface is like unwelcome pick, but I think the fact that the entity kind of was really closely tied into Danny's story after a while, I think that helped a lot with like the exception of the fact that it wasn't Scream and it was an original
Mm-hmm.
character in a Ghostface mask. I think that helped a lot because that was controversial at the time and disappointing for a lot of people. But people kind of between that and the gameplay feeling like Scream, for lack of a better term, people were okay with it.
Yeah, and like I've mentioned this before. Like if you go to other PvP games lore, cough cough Overwatch,
Hmm.
they're a fucking mess.
Yes.
And not to say Dead by Daylight's lore is perfect; it has its problems. But I have praised behavior so much on the idea of the lore that sets the gameplay up because they found a way to not only make it not seem like a MacGuffin, but it
Hmm.
literally makes anything work.
Yes, it does.
And that also leads into like the frosty eyes theory and or the white eyes theory with like Deathslinger and Spirit and all that stuff, and
Hmm.
all this other stuff. But like they found a way to make like all of this work, which is just it's impressive, and they did that from the start. That wasn't like something they added, right?
Hmm.
Um,
It's just the core concept was solid enough, and they were able to expand it very quickly into that.
Yeah, and it's impressive. And again, that's why I think like basically anything can work if they want it to.
If they really put in the elbow grease, yeah. Once again, Halo license, the Flood and Johnson, uh, Teletubbies make it like creepypasta Slenderman type deal. We've all seen those quote unquote horrific Teletubby images or whatever. If they really want to make it work, they could make probably, I'd say, a good like 80% of media franchises could work if they really put in the effort to sell people on it and to sell people that yes, this can work. Maybe not immediately, no,
Mm.
but they could make it work in the next like 5 years or so. Let's give it a time frame. Next 5 years or so, they could make it work.
I mean, you brought up Hello Kitty earlier for like the
Hmm.
Japanese thing. That one sounds like a ridiculous thing to add to the game. Chucky canonically wore a Hello Kitty mask in the show, so they could add
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. Once
What?
again, they put their mind to it, they will make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as it isn't a complete gameplay dud like Skull Merchant, they'll be okay. People will get over it. And the better the killer is, the easier the, like, I guess, exception
Mm-hmm.
is. Like, the easier and the faster people will accept it. Because I think that's a big reason why nobody's complaining about Tokyo Ghoul. Because the killer is interesting. Even if they're nothing ground shaking new, they've got enough to them on
Mm-hmm.
an already tried and true formula that it's fun and exciting. So these people that were on the fence and otherwise might have leaned the other way if he was another Skull Merchant,
Mm-hmm.
they're on board now. And they're going to be on board for any other anime licenses in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And I think at this point we're kind of just
Hmm.
we're kind of just talking in circles about it. But at the end of the day, like really, it just comes down to I think most anything can fit. It's just a matter of time. And I think
Right.
now this year in particular was the perfect time to do the first like anime-ish license.
And I think timing Tokyo Ghoul uh
FNAF.
right before FNAF was very, very smart.
Oh
Because
yeah.
he's the anime killer is going to be right next to Springtrap and all those new people who are coming into the game in the next few months because of Springtrap. He's going to be one of the first characters that they see, and he's going to be on their mind a lot, even if not like consciously. He's going to be in their face because anytime they go down to select Springtrap, guess who's going to be right there next to him? And this next generation, they're going to learn that there was a question about anime and DBD, and that people like protested it and were against it, and they're going to be like, "Wait, what? Wait, this was 6 months ago? Wait, why?" They're going to be so confused
Yeah, I mean that's
because to them it's just normal.
yeah, that's another good point. Is the new also they won't see him next to Springtrap because they moved the new killers to the top.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the new killers get moved to the top left of the selection.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that. Is Houndmaster there?
She might not be there now because it's been long enough, but yeah, I think it's for like the first month.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah,
I totally didn't know
yeah.
that,
It's
but
a
still, the point
yeah,
stands.
yeah, yeah. I mean, even like in a year though,
Hmm.
like if someone picks up the game, they're gonna see Springtrap and Ken right next to each other.
Yep, and they're gonna think nothing of it.
Yeah, and then they're gonna see Chucky and Xenomorph right above them and be like, okay, that makes sense. like, like, and then scroll a little bit farther up and see Ghostface and Freddy and be like, okay, no, 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 I get it. I see the vision. I see the vision. Um,
And they're just not gonna question any of it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, again, like I think it's the other thing with it is just like I think we're also forgetting the new player perspective. Not just
Hmm.
bringing in new players, but once those players are in, like if people come to Dead by Daylight because Tokyo Ghoul or FNAF is in it, everything that's currently in it to them, for the
It's
most
gonna make
part,
sense.
is gonna make sense because they're like, this is the game.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, like I play random games with my friends sometimes, and it's like this doesn't make sense. And then I play it for like a few minutes, like what? No, 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 I get it, I get it. Or like they explain to me why it's there, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's pretty much, I feel like, what's going to happen.
Hmm.
Again, I was expecting a lot bigger backlash, and I do have a. I mentioned this before this, but I do have a I have a small inkling of a feeling that a lot of the people who are like this doesn't belong in the game are not saying anything because they know the backlash they're going to get if they do.
Yeah.
I do think that's also part of it.
Oh, absolutely. There's always going to be a factor of it.
But Crow, I think
Hmm.
that pretty much ends our
I think
conversation
that's a
with
good
the,
time. Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's a good place to end it on.
Um, as always, I appreciate you coming on. Uh,
Hmm.
I know, this went all over the place as it always does, but um, the fact that you're even willing to be a returning guest, always, just thank you.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
These are always fun.
I love our conversations, and for those listening on the YouTubes and in the Twitch chat, there's a few other returning guests coming on as well for other topics. Cough, cough, pixel bush. Um,
It's about time.
yeah. Oh,
Poor guy's been through it this year.
he came back on for Master. I have another topic for us to discuss that was very similar to this one, actually. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, but we'll see. But in any case, for those on the YouTube side, I love you guys as always. Have a good one, and yeah, bye.